obviously the smash beat. Love the beat. Once again, like psychedelia for days with that beat. Also, I mean, I'm not gonna say it, Ben, but if you want to say the line, like I'm not gonna say it, but
nah,
Shawty suck my dick in the bathroom.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick 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 tick, the clock tick 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 faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster.
Hello, everyone. This is your Living Off Borrowed Time podcast for a very special episode, a very special month of May. If you're hearing this, welcome to Playboi Carti month. This has long been one of our favorite artists on the podcast, as you know, and we will be talking about Carti this month. We're going to do a 3-episode format, so this is episode 1 of the trifecta, and it is centered around Die Lit, the seminal, classic, generation-defining, I would say, album. 5-year anniversary is coming up on May 11th, so you'll hear that podcast around the time of that anniversary, and it's just like a little special thing that we're doing on the pod. Been planning it for a while. Big shout out off the top to Wyatt, who's going to be assembling all of this, but this episode you will hear us talk about the Carti self-titled album in 2017, his first record. But before we do that, we have to start at the beginning of when Carti was coming up. And before we even do that, I, the host of this episode, have to introduce my co-host, Patrick. Patrick, how you doing?
pretty good. I feel like we have an abundance of things to talk about on this episode.
Absolutely. Dozens of tracks worth of material. And we will be talking, of course, about In Abundance, as Patrick referenced, among other Carti Lucy's. And to do so, I've invited another person, special guest. You've heard him on the podcast. He's one of the many honorary members we have at this point. But Ben, a.k.a. Created by Rejection. Ben, welcome.
Hello. Good to be on again.
Listeners, you usually hear him on when he's talking about like underground rap shit or like Eat Records or whatever. So this is a nice like change of pace. I feel like you're diversifying the portfolio of appearances.
It's good to take it back to some old classics with this
2014
to 16 Carti era. We're not so modern anymore. We're going a little bit back, not so far back, but a little.
A lot of the stuff from the era does feel a little nostalgic in a way, especially the production. But we'll get into that. But
y'all are already making me feel fucking old by talking about this shit.
Sorry, I realized that as soon as I said it was old. I was like, I'm sorry.
We need Wyatt to throw something
on the bingo card. Make Patrick feel like he's old as hell. Oh yeah, these Carti classics.
We need Wyatt to throw up on the YouTube screen right now. Like Patrick feels old. It's like a rocking chair or something.
Fans have not made for us is the Living Off Borrowed Time bingo card, and on that bingo card needs to be things that the Living Off Borrowed Time fans have not made for us, such as the Living Off Borrowed Time bingo card.
The bingo card though could definitely be. We've got like shitting on J. Cole right next to the free space. That's got to be right next to the free space.
Free space
right off the top.
Intro/outro.
100%. You get that one right off the top. You have the J. Cole, you have the Logic hate, and then you have like some mention of a comment box that has to be in there.
Shit on my comment.
Yes, right. We have that in there. like you said, a comment about you feeling old. So then we've already got half the bingo card assembled. I feel like there's not much more to do.
But speaking of, you were talking about Ben and saying that he is mainly well versed in recent underground stuff. That underground scene would not exist without this Carti album, though. That's the thing.
This is kind of the blueprint, right?
But
the blueprint for all of SoundCloud.
It's so indebted to the scene of its time, which is what I was struck by when listening to it, was that it was so weird because we just did the Currency episode where one of the things we talked about in the Currency episode was how the very early Currency material was him finding his voice, and he sounded just very derivative for a little while, and that stuff was a bit boring when he was finding his voice, and those albums just sounded like kind of lost, whereas this doesn't necessarily sound lost while he's finding his voice. Like, you can still hear him in it, if that makes sense. Like, because he's such a distinctive artist in that way that even though it sounds like he's channeling his biggest influences, it's not like when Currency was trying to, and this is no slight on Currency, by the way, because he would very quickly find his own lane, but they're different types of rappers, because Currency's more lyrical, but it's the difference between being a lyricist and a vocalist, I suppose. And that's not a slight on either approach, because Carti is doing a different thing than Currency is. And I'm not doing an apples to apples here. And I know I'm rambling, but it's more about in like their early career, like an artist in their early career, is that Currency coming up was just like when you're in your early career and you're just trying to be a rapper, I suppose, you're just trying to emulate how those artists sound. Whereas Carti was like, in terms of like, I want to sound like they do lyrically, I want to emulate their flows. Whereas Carti is like, he's trying to do a 1-to-1. Currency's trying to sound like Slim, and then later he would try to sound like Jay and Wayne, just the way they flowed. Whereas Carti is like, okay, Gucci flows like this, and Keith flows like this, but I'm still gonna but I'm gonna structure songs differently. My vocals are gonna be mixed differently. I'm gonna structure songs differently. I'm gonna stretch my vocals out differently, if that makes sense. Like, even on this tape where you can tell he's emulating things, he's still doing it differently.
Yeah, so, and I think when you talked about like him trying to find his voice, I think that's what he was trying to do on his early stuff, like that Sir Cartier tape back in like 2012, where like he hadn't really found quite who he was. He was still a little bit cloudy. He had that sort of simplistic flow that he was still trying to, use, but it didn't really get started until like Young Zan Ho, that 2014 track, that first one off of In Abundance. That was when it all started, really.
Well, I can't really speak to Sir Cartier, unfortunately, because I downloaded it and I listened to the first 2 tracks and I enjoyed it, but like that is more of a 1-to-1. But even then, I feel like my point about it is that like on something like Young Zan Ho, he's doing ASAP Rocky. Like, I think we can all agree that's more of an ASAP thing than like than he would.
See, I don't hear that. I hear that 100% on Sir Cartier. I know you guys haven't heard all of it. No, I mean,
what I listened to from it, yes, that's also a 1-to-1. But I feel like that the flow on that is, and there's stuff that I can't directly point to off the top of my head on In Abundance that feels like ASAP, but there's also Keith on there, and then there's Gucci stuff, including the Gucci track. But I feel like the way the songs are structured and the way the vocals are mixed, he's already experimenting with it, as opposed to other rappers like Currency or Denzel when we explored the Denzel stuff, or Freddie when we did the Freddie Baby Pictures thing, where it's like, I'm just going to emulate it 1-to-1. Like, I'm going to go over the beat the way other rappers did the beat. Like, Carti's not taking other people's beats and going over them. He's taking beats that he wants to go over, he's distorting that sort of beat and just going over it in a weird way where he's emulating what he likes about the rappers that he's emulating and kind of doing their style in a different way where you can still realize he's doing their style. But by the time he'd get to Self-Titled, it was pretty much mostly him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this album does have it takes a lot of influences from a lot of people. Like you said, Keith is a big one, like on this thing, and it's a bootleg, so you're getting a bunch of random tracks everywhere from different areas in like his throughout his SoundCloud and different points of his life. It's not just like one big like collective. It's not just like a collective sort of album that's supposed to like represent who he was in 2016. It's just one big Lucy's collection thrown together. So you can tell that there's just influences being pulled everywhere. So yeah.
Do either of you have any kind of insight as to how this was? This just like some sort of Reddit dump or whatever, or who pulled this together? Was it like what kind of fan base pulled?
I can't remember who pulled it together.
Well, it was.
I wish I remember.
It was released in 2016, allegedly.
Yeah.
What's weird,
and I would say allegedly accurately, because when I was on SoundCloud listening to it a few days ago, it did say 7 years ago, so that was 2016.
It is 2016 for sure. I don't know who put it together, and there are some songs missing, so I don't know.
Well, there is
like, what they're reasoning about it, but
there is the version I got on SoulSeek that is 18 tracks, which I thought was very interesting because that's somebody's idea of what this should be as a CD, which I thought was very.
That was on Spotify for a while.
Yeah,
it was not authorized by Carti, but it was uploaded by Spotify on Spotify. I don't know what the reasoning for the tracks picked, but they're all good.
Someone just made like 40% of the album or whatever and put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of think as having listened to that and also having listened to the whole, content version, it is chronological as to, like, they didn't just listen to the whole thing and then pick the best songs and then sequence it. They listened to it through the whole. They kind of picked the best songs in that sequence. Like, you get it from the beginning to end. Like, there's no, like, picking the best songs from the end and putting them in the beginning sequence, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird way to work, but it's kind of clumsy in that way. So, I don't know. Like, and I also feel like the Cash Carti stuff is kind of backloaded to it, as opposed, I don't know. I feel like aside from Fetty, the best stuff feels a bit from, like, aside from Fetty, Young Zanho's the best song on here. I don't know. How do you want to really approach this? It's kind of hard to tackle something this large.
Mm-hmm. I
don't know how chronologically it was really assembled. I just feel like the Cash Carti stuff is at the end, and I don't know if Cash Carti, like, because he seems to go by that name a lot in the later tracks, so I don't know if there's a chronological meaning behind that, or if that's just random chance.
I think it was
I definitely know
it's just like a. Oh, go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think like the first like 15 or 16 tracks I'm pretty sure were in chronological order. Like Young Zanho, Heavy Talk, Holyfield. I'm pretty sure those are all straight from like when he released them chronologically. After that, when you like get into like the tracks where it's not really like his own track, it's him featured on someone else's, I don't know what like the reasoning is behind putting some of them there. But I think for the most part, it's somewhat chronological.
And you can definitely when he drops off. You can tell a difference between when he is not when there's a featured artist on there, because I feel like after a point, there's like other people start taking over the vocal duties more. There's like more of that. I guess what you guys talk about Plugg and B, which you're well more versed on it than I am. I feel like there's more of a singing bent to the final third than the beginning.
Yeah, there is definitely a bit of that. And what I wanted to ask a few minutes ago, listeners, you'll understand once you get to subsequent episodes of how we've been structuring it. But I wanted to have you on here, Ben, first and foremost, because I believe this is one of the highest rated Carti projects you rated, if not the highest. Is this a couple questions?
It's not Whole Lotta Red, obviously. Is my favorite album.
Is your favorite.
Or second favorite album, I'd say, ever. Yeah. So that's going to be number one. I would say, though, honestly, this comes number two. I would put it over Dial It, actually, for sure. And it is a little bit of a toss-up between that and Self-Titled. This and Self-Titled. But I would, just the amount of tracks. Like, if I created my own 25-track playlist of this album, it would beat out pretty much every album ever to exist, in my opinion. Better than Whole Lotta Red. If you just took out, 20 or so tracks from it and made the perfect album, yeah. So the cuts on here are as they can get.
Right, and I wanted to ask you, because you brought up Die Lit, and one thing that we're kind of doing, and listeners will hear it in subsequent episodes, but since it is the 5-year anniversary of Die Lit, some questions about Die Lit, and necessarily does it have a meaning to you? What was Die Lit A, your first Carti? B, what kind of meaning does it have for you, if any at all? And then C, how do you kind of think it changed the landscape of rap? Because there's definitely a strong case for that to be made.
So Die Lit was not my first Carti. That was self-titled back when it released, the day it released. But I was not in on underground rap music at the time. I was not really a fan. I think I gave it a 3.5 because I liked some of the beats, but I was just not that invested into it. Die Lit came out in 2018 and it changed everything for me. It didn't change it right away. I still liked it a little bit, but it wasn't until October 2018 when I was listening to that album front to back nonstop every single day. I mean, it took over my life. And I think to that point, that's why it sort of doesn't hit as well as I think it does for most, because for me, because I just replayed it so much and it brings back great memories. And I love all the songs. Every song is a classic. Carti really, if I were to pick an album that was this is the defining moment in his career, it would be Die Lit. I think a lot of people would say that. I think most people say that this is the album that sort of changed how they viewed Carti. If they were they weren't feeling it back in 2017, they sort of got it after this one. And so just like everyone else, it's what it did to me. It sort of changed how I look on rap and, the so-called mumble rap style, even if that's not a great term for it. That's what changed the game for me. And that's what made me become an underground rap fan, was that album. So it holds a lot of meaning to me, but it also, I replayed it so much as a sophomore in college that I just it's hard for me to go back to it as much as the other albums that he's dropped. Mm-hmm. So it changed everything. But as for my personal rating, I'd probably put it at the bottom.
Interesting. And that's why I think I noticed that also when looking at some of your ratings. Comparatively, it was going up against 5s. So it's it wasn't.
And I had it at a 5 too. Yeah, I had it at a 5. It's probably until 2021.
Yeah, it was going up against tough competition. So I knew it wasn't you hated the record or anything. No, I knew that.
No.
Yeah. No, it was more of I wanted your perspective on, because I guess that the In Abundance in this era of Carti was up there versus for a lot of people, it's what comes afterwards. So, it's derailed it for a little bit, but that's kind of what I wanted to get you on for. So, I appreciate sharing that.
Decent.
Yeah.
It changed your life. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
It did. It absolutely changed my life. I just, I don't put it on anymore. It's just interesting like that. It's interesting how you can have something that completely reshaped how you view music.
Well, and it's just music that's I cannot pronounce the word epocal, epocal, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just a sea change type of thing for you, whereas it becomes nothing to you though, because it's such a defining moment for you. It's you almost, I don't know if it's so significant or you've listened to it so much that it's not that it ceases to have meaning for you. It's just you've listened to it so much that it's a word you've said so much that you say it so much, the word ceases to have sound that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, I would say the equivalent of that is also Ever Since by Blade, which I listened to a ton back in college, and now I don't listen to at all. And I would rank it very, very low in terms of my Blade albums, but it holds so much meaning for me that it's hard.
An album can just never be their favorite record. or else it's just getting thrown in the trash after a few years.
Caleb.
I gaslight Ben on this podcast. That's whenever he comes on. Yeah.
My boomer ass this question in my fucking back pocket, so y'all can't fucking judge me. Don't judge me.
No, I mean, look. The real there's all albums that every music listener, new or old.
Mine are obviously Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. Lover.
Right.
With all the
every
classics.
Taylor Swift album, yeah, 100%, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that's Patrick's thing right there.
Professional Rapper by Lil Dicky is up there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my favorite.
Follow some vomit to make that joke, so I'm just kind of having to the window real quick. But
also, bingo card, the White Atlanta. The White Atlanta, dude.
Yeah, the Lil Dicky Lander. If you have that, that's probably your upper left B on the bingo card.
But no, I think you bring up an interesting point. And Patrick, I also like the point that you made about how there was a lot of Keef influence. I definitely heard that too, because this is around the time also when Keef was getting into the Back from the Dead 2s and that era. So the production was more blown out and hazy and could be kind of murky, but also really hard hitting at some songs.
Yeah.
Keith had a variety to it.
The song lengths are a little extended in that way too. Back in the Dead 3 has the 7-minute Soulja Boy song on it, but I think Keith was kind of experimenting with dragging songs out a little bit, not even in the chopped and screwed sort of way, but just kind of hypnotic a little bit, just kind of seeing how far he could push a sound. And I think that Carti would go in the opposite direction a little. It's hard to explain because Whole Lot of Red I think kind of goes in the opposite direction. He goes kind of in the snippet way, but not even in the SoundCloud rapper sort of way, because he was ahead of that curve too. It's hard to explain how many curves this dude is ahead of.
It's insane. You look every single album.
You look at artists that were this era, and you look at artists on this very bootleg project, but he worked with people and Ben, you and I talked about this way back, but people like Uno and Fawny and even people like Key, Young Bands, obviously, obvious example, and even on the bigger names like a Rich the Kid or whatever. Those, not only has Carti outlived all those artists, even when those artists had a revival and came back before they then faded again, that was still in the time of Carti having his peak popularity. When Fawny and Uno had their revival, in 2020, 2021, Carti was dropping a lot of Red, his most relevant album, you could argue. So it's just insane.
And Fawny and Uno are still dropping, and they're not that relevant anymore. Carti hasn't dropped since Whole Lot of Red, and look at how relevant he still is. It's no hate on Fawny and Uno, but
yeah, and with those two, the music just isn't it wasn't as good. They had. When they both had their revival, I was really into all their stuff, and it was
the guy who was really mad about that people wouldn't stop talking shit about his taper, right? Or was that
which guy? I'm sorry.
No, was Uno the guy who was mad that he made the song about people talking shit about his taper, or was that Margella?
Oh no, that's Wildcard Uno.
Yes. No. Yeah. Close enough. No, that's fair. That's a fair point.
God,
that's a
song about the
taper. Uno the activist is the guy.
Yeah, Uno the activist is.
I really enjoyed that song.
He's funny. He's funny as hell. He's funny as hell. That's his calling card, really. He's
that was
the funny
most red mad nude song I've heard in a while.
There's a new Margella song that
angry as fuck, but.
Yeah, Wildcard Uno, his calling card is he's just going to be funny and goofy on the track. I feel like that's his, and
that's all of his songs are like that.
No, they're not all like that, but
they're not all like that. But
recently he's been doing that. Yeah,
he's been on an interesting run of songs. He's not exactly my favorite, but I do like him still. I would rate him, but I just don't.
I would call in terms of novelty artist song. I enjoyed that, but I would not listen to an album of that. But I enjoyed that. So.
Well, does he even have a full length? Ben, does he have a full length?
No, he does not have a full length. No.
45-second long song, so I assume like when I say an EP, I don't know. They all just have SoundCloud singles, so
it's a lot of singles. It's a lot of singles.
Yeah.
From a lot.
And they
of
all
guys,
get deleted from RYM anyway because reasons.
True. And then they get deleted from SoundCloud too.
Keep groveling.
Yeah.
Yes. When you post a RYM single and the link is to like a dead SoundCloud page, you're screwed.
You will get a rejection message that is incredibly snarky and makes you like
do better next time. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on
from RYM pet entry. We're sorry.
Moving on.
Bingo board.
Not even the niche listener to our niche podcast. So.
But yeah, back to on the topic of In Abundance, like the relevancy, obviously, and what it sounds like. I don't think it's funny. Like, Young Zanho being the first track.
Yeah.
How many songs on here does Young Zanho sound like? Like not that many. Like
not that many at all.
All of the PlayStation 2 and like Sam.
Well,
and, like,
I think
that's
a PlayStation 1, dude. That's a PlayStation 1.
Is that PS1? Did
I thought it was
excuse my lack of gaming.
You were not born. I mean, you were.
I was not. I'm not a gamer either,
let's see.
But I thought it was
what year then. What year did the PS2 come out?
PS1 was
2000, right?
2000. Oh, the PS1 was 94. Yeah, I was not. I was not alive. Yes. I played a PS1 before, I think, but I remember PS2 more fondly. I
would say there's a long history of rap songs that have sampled video game startup sounds, but honestly, I can only remember this one and the shout outs to somebody who has no right to make music because they owe us so much more Frank Ocean intro to an album.
Yeah, the Channel Orange one. Right?
The man did not feel well, so nostalgia ultra. I have no nostalgia for this man because, go do better. Go do a whole fucking tour, Frank Ocean. But I feel like there are a bunch of rap songs that have sampled video game startup sounds, and I can't just remember them. But this is the best one, like, because I feel like it's just such a simple loop, and it works so well. It sounds so good. Like it's just an airy sound done so perfectly.
The way Caleb, you know who produced this one too? Do you know who produced this too?
I would cheat and look it up on the RYM, but I'm not going to do that. So what?
RYM won't tell you. It's 454. The Plugg.
How do you know that?
Because that's it. I mean, it's him. People have confirmed.
Oh, that's like
that was
his
like
alias. His alias, like used to.
Squills Beats. Squills Beats.
Holy
is 454's production alias.
Listeners live on the podcast, this is a genuine holy shit moment.
This is right now. This is a Peter Parker scoop y'all just got. You just got scooped.
Seriously, like all the times on the album they say this is a certified hood classic. That literally is. This is how I feel. Do it in that voice.
"Quote unquote" album is how it makes such good use of like pack-in sound effects and the Trapaholics drop and all that stuff. Like it's just like such like bullshit like sound effects, but it just really adds to it. I don't know if that's just like internet brain or whatever. It's just like cool use of it. Like, and it might.
I agree with you.
Drops, but I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Mexico made use of that. Crazy.
Yeah, Mexico Dro, and then eventually
the crazy taxi drop. I think it only happens once, but that might just be my like fucking love of the Dreamcast. Shout out to Charles Hamilton. Donate to his GoFundMe for his new album. But that crazy taxi drop.
Charles.
Yeah. Also, put that on the bingo card. We mentioned Charles Hamilton.
That's true. It has been a little while.
On the bingo card,
Charles. No, I mean. You talk about that's so crazy. 454 produced that song. We'll get more 454 talk on the podcast. I've only been able to mention him on like honorable mention or end of year episodes, but yeah. Anyway, In Abundance, like the way it comes, like Young Zanho, the way it comes on is just perfect. I mean, and Carti's voice with the beat, once again back to the vocalist thing. It's almost like the rhythmic chants and like they mesh so perfectly. Yep. And then it's just like that hook, or even the first few songs, is also just like so Keith. Like the Like lucid dream, bitch I bleed, lean, like all that. Like it's just so.
It's weird because when I first heard it, and I always thought it was an ASAP thing, but when you said the bitch I bleed lean, that does feel like Keith. Like the bitch I bleed lean feels, but it still all feels like at this point he is kind of just, I don't want to say regurgitating influences. It's more like a synthesis, because regurgitation feels like lazy, whereas synthesis feels more like conscious. And I feel like that's what he's doing here. He's just kind of taking everything and just kind of putting it together, as opposed to regurgitation, which would just be kind of like recitation, just kind of taking stuff and throwing it back, as opposed to just like synthesizing, which is like taking everything that works and putting it together in a way and like recontextualizing it, which is what he would do. And like, because I think that the self-titled is like taking cloud rap and I don't want to say elevating it, because that's not what he did. Because first of all, elevating means that cloud rap was something that needed elevated, which I'm not trying to do a dumb pun, because cloud elevate, that's not what I was going for there. And also that implies that it was lower and needed elevating, which it didn't, because I already hold cloud rap at a high status. And also is that like what he does is, it's hard to explain. Like Carti is a hard to explain artist. Like
if you hear it, you hear it. Yeah.
Essentially, yes. Like I remember I think I tried to start this anecdote and didn't finish it on a previous, or we're non-linear podcast future episode, when I was talking about these episodes to people at work, where I said we're doing 5 parts, which you as the listener will hear as 3 parts because we're non-linear podcast, to people at work. And I was like, yeah, I like him, but my co-host loves them. And it's like, it was mainly his idea. And then my friend was like, oh, so it sounds like you don't want to do it. I'm like, no, it's not like that. And then it's like, well, he's not really lyrical, but he is. He's like, sounds like he isn't. And it's like, what do I have to explain? And then I got really frustrated and walked away. And it's like,
probably the right move.
I have to explain this, but I don't. And it's like, and then I'm like, you haven't heard location. And then it's like, then I walk away.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
It's about like that. It's like, I just want to play location for you. They don't
get it. They don't get it.
I think that Chops, aka One Chops, and shout out to him and listeners. Spoiler, you will hear him on this episode talking about the self-titled. Had a really good review. He had a really good review of In Abundance, I thought, and he mentioned talking about like you could call like Carti a non-entity, but that's like missing the fact that even if you're just starting out, like the presence is everything, and that's the first thing that you really catch on to. Like what he does with the beats, how he's able to get, and I'm quoting him here, like psychedelic juices out of the beats in certain songs, and like his mic presence and his flows are the big starting point. So that's the story.
Carti gets more out of one line than I get out of 100 fucking super lyrical miracle lines. Like, period. Like, him having one line in my head is more than him just, like, and I just keep going back. Like, every time I talk about Carti, I'm just thinking about location, but, like, there could be 100 things. Like, Rockstar Maid stuck in my head. Like, I had Fetty stuck in my head all day just prepping for this podcast, but it could have been any number of songs from In Abundance. Like, and In Abundance is something I rank below Die Lit. I'm sorry, Ben. Like, I rank it below a bunch of other stuff. Like, but that's just a testament to him as a songwriter. Like, this is all formative stuff. He doesn't even want this out there. And it's
this isn't
better.
This is all just like loose SoundCloud stuff. Like, he doesn't really focus on any of this anymore. None of like the style. It's all kind of faded away. He doesn't talk about this era anymore. But yet still, you just listen to these songs and you can just tell the presence on the mic is so strong. Every lyric that he delivers comes with like power. Like Young Zan Ho, you just say like, I'm sad as fuck over and over again. And it just sounds so powerful when he says it.
It's weird because there's something about the way Carti does this that resonates with me that Thug does it that mostly didn't. I don't know. There are some Thug songs where he does this, like Family Don't Matter, absolutely did. There are some stuff on Jeffrey, like that did. Like Thug does this stuff and it's like intermittent, but when Carti does it almost always does.
No, 100%. I
feel like Thug is more like outwardly, quote unquote, arty about it, whereas I'm sorry, Thug is more arty, like outwardly arty about it, whereas I think it's hard for me to say like Carti, arty, and Thug in the same sentence, and it just sounds, But I feel like,
well, especially on this, it's a little more raw, I would say.
This ain't pod. This some raw.
Yeah. yes.
But
100%.
I feel like when Thug does it, there's a bit of affectation to it, whereas I think Carti is a little more just like puts it out there, like this is my personality.
Mm-hmm. He's way more direct.
Bridging that, I think with Thug though, that affectation, that like kind of artistic leaning into it progressed over time. Like in the beginning, yeah, he was doing a lot of like the Yelpy shit. And that was like what kind of got him known, but he was still feeling his way through the influences. Like when Carti feels his way through some of the Keef and some of the other like, influences on this and throughout the mid 2010s. Thug did that exact same thing on like 1017 Thug or the like I Came From Nothing stuff. And then by the time he got there, I know you disagree with this, Patrick, this exact point, but to me, by the time he got to Barter 6, then he was going. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel
Are
like
you not a Barter 6 guy?
Yeah, I don't like Barter 6, but I feel like Barter 6 has a weird fucking tinge about it because I think Birdman wanted him to do Barter 6.
That's
that I do believe. There's definitely some Birdman hand rubbing in how that tape was.
Like,
and really what it was the promotion
Barter
of it.
6 and him breaking off with Wayne and everything, and then Birdman, and then it's weird, man. It just doesn't.
Yeah, the whole thing was kind of sketchy,
and it doesn't sound.
I think
good
the music's great.
So yeah, it never sat right with me, and I know some people really vouch for that album. I've given it a lot of tries. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. I can see why people like it, but it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know, and I like most Thug stuff before and after. So, but yeah,
it's an interesting one to not like.
Do you guys like Talk or the remix more? On this on the album.
I am a remix fanatic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the right answer. Yeah. But I know some people vouch for the original over it.
I mean, the original's fine. I think the remix has more to it, just in general. So,
yeah, I'll tell you right now, the remix is a top 10 song ever for me. It's probably my favorite Carti song.
Fuck, I listened to that like 3 years. That's another one. The thing about this was hard for me just prepping for the episode where there are certain songs where I kept playing them over and over, and it was hard for me to listen to 48, like I think it was 45, 48 songs. And there were certain songs I'd heard before that I just kept listening to because I liked them so much. I knew I'd heard them before. Fetty is top of the list, and I just kept repeating them certain time. Like, yeah, that was the biggest problem in prepping for the episode. So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to
go.
And I think that's a testament to Carti as a songwriter, is that even in this formative period, he was already that fully formed that he could just shit this stuff out more or less. Because I don't think he was thinking about it that much.
It was very like you got to shove them all out into the SoundCloud world. Yeah.
Like. Yeah, I don't want to like disregard that he does put a lot of thought into how his vocals sound, how the songs are structured. Like it's not just like he just goes into the studio. It's like blah, like Gucci. Like at some points, like we've listened to Knight Rider, we know that Gucci does this sometimes. But shout out to Knight Rider though. You should listen to that. But
Everyone's supposed to listen to Knight Rider, just once. But yeah,
Ben, listen to Knight Rider by Gucci Mane.
What?
Knight Rider by Gucci Mane.
I haven't heard it. I gotta put it on.
Very fine. It's Gucci.
Is it recent Gucci or is it old?
What
Gucci?
you think Gucci Mane Knight Rider would be? I don't know if it was Zaytoven or Mike Will, but it's like 2014 Gucci. The song's called Knight Rider, and the
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's. He sings the hook, and I'm putting some air quotes around this.
Yeah, it's an attempt.
I mean,
but it's worth listening to
It's about 3.5 minutes of your life that you won't regret if you invest them into it.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, I do think it's on the topic of the Talk remix. I really like, and once again, this goes back to the Carti. Like, there are plenty of times. Patrick mentioned this on Whole Lot of Red, which you will hear down the road, and he's mentioned a Whole Lot of Red years past in the podcast, so this is not a spoiler. But you talked about how Carti is clearly like enunciating, hammering into your head. My vocals are up front. You're going to hear everything I have to say, type shit. And on this, now obviously it's earlier in the career, but on this one, even though he has some of like the very druggy.
Song you're talking about the take on this actually, because there are 2 or 3 songs on here that he's really upfront with that I don't like, that I think presage songs that he does like that I do later. But go ahead.
No, and that's fair, because there is an abrasiveness to it on some, especially what a song that I like too, but I know some people don't like a song like "Don't Tell Nobody," for example, where I know there's like it's really in your face, and I like that song, but I know that. I wouldn't blame anybody for not liking it. But yeah, on this, even if you have the walls of sound, the very druggy stuff, like what is it? Like I Got Depressed Hose, like that.
Oh yeah.
The waves of sound on that, it sounds like a fucking like.
I love the production on that, but okay. So opinions on
it's like this walls of percussion.
Plugg Christ opinion section.
Oh no.
No.
Are you an anti-Slug Christ kind of guy?
I'm an anti-Christer. I'm not.
Ben, I'm gonna say it was never for me either, and I like this sort of thing.
It was never for you either.
Never for me. It's not.
Just kind of like he's a bit in the Nacho Picasso sort of lane, but not as funny, I guess. Like he's kind of like in that ironic, wanna be a little.
I don't know.
Like I don't know. Like
I don't know if he's trying to be funny though. I think it's just like
see what's good about his verse. I'm certainly not going to cringe through it or anything, but like, doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. I felt like he's got an irony vibe to his verse I don't like.
I don't know if I hear the irony, especially because he comes from that Awful Records group. I mean, it's like kind of funny. Because he comes from that group with like Father and Ethereal and that kind of stuff, but like he's such like a legend in terms of like the people that like the current scene looks up to him a lot because like of that early stuff that he was putting out, and so
he's on something.
He definitely hold.
But yeah, like Father was. Father has some album cover I thought was really funny. He's on a Piece of Shit, I think, was an album cover I thought was really funny.
Oh, the one where he's like holding like the anime girl.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That was like it's on waifu or whatever. Yeah. Funny. But Slug Christ, there was some other feature he had that I did not care for. I don't know. It's like there's some maybe it's his flow or whatever, but maybe it's just some scene I'm not really well acquainted with. I don't know. Maybe
the vocals are an acquired taste for sure. I mean,
it just
there's no denying it.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I can deal with it. It's not a Lil Dicky type situation where I'm going to turn you the fuck off type thing. I don't think he's making a joke out of it, but
I think it also works great with the beat specifically. Like if it was like a standard like Plugg beat, it would be weird. I would think, but the fact that it kind of sounds like it's recorded in like the depths of like a cave, and it's like this like murky vibe, and then when like these like eerie kind of gross vocals come in from him, it sort of like almost like amplifies that vibe a bit. So I can see why people don't like it, but to me, like just the weirdness and sort of the uneasy feeling that the vocals and the beat combine together, I guess that's why it stands out to me as one of my favorites.
That's the thing. I would not call it one of my favorites. I mean, I really like what Carti does, and I really like the beat. I feel like he keeps it from being one of my favorites because he takes me out of the vibe, but I would not say he's bad, if that makes sense. Like, he's like a net zero value to the song, which otherwise, if it was just Carti, it might be one of my favorites. So there are certain songs on here I feel like are kind of like incomplete thoughts, which I guess is kind of like a testament to being a content dump. Like Ian Connors, I think, is kind of
that's like an interlude.
Yeah, like there are a few songs on here I feel like it's just like somebody dumped this on the internet, and there are a few songs on here like trying to think of other songs like that. Like there are 2 or 3 songs.
Sneak Distance, like a minute long.
Yeah,
it's like a minute 30 seconds.
It's very
long.
Short. I will say in the short songs though, like Money Counter is
Money Counter is great.
Money Counter is great, and that's a song that has endured through years and years of not only Carti fans liking it, but now here we are in the the TikTok era, and it's been like discovered. No, not.
I just discovered it was trending. Like
it's a very.
I was just scrolling through, and I was like, hold on.
The thing is with that song, the beat of the song and like the little hook thing at the beginning is very popular. In the sense that like even for people that like don't like listen to a Carti like that, just like the sound is very appealing, which makes sense to me. It's like a catchy little, it's like a hooky little like melody. So that makes sense. And it follows a run of songs that are fantastic. I think like that little stretch, broke the Broke Boy Smash, like that little run right there. I think.
Yeah, I think Count It Up also is very like it's very similar to Money Counter in that way, where they're both like they got that Mexico production and they both use a heavy auto tune, and they're both like 2 minutes long, and so both of them put together back to back, great combo.
Well, that whole run is like from By Myself, No Help to Money Counter is like mostly Mexico Dro, and then the one ethereal beat. So it's very cohesive.
Broke Boy in there too, and Broke Boy's fucking obvious highlight. Like, with the hook, like that's one hook after another. Like that's a punchline hook song. So
that was the song I think that was the first Carti song I heard. I think back in like 2016. I'm not going to say that I was there in like 15, but I think in 16 I heard that one. And then I heard Plugg. I think those were the ones that I heard first. And then I heard him on telephone calls. Which,
I'm pretty sure I heard Location because Mookid told me to hear Location in the Soul Seek chat. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure.
Shout out Mookid.
I'm pretty sure he was
an OG.
Yeah, Mookid, who would go up every day to smoke to the Frank Ocean album on his roof, would be like, "Yo, I'm smoking this Playboi Carti who's smoking with me in the Soul Seek," and be like, "Yo, shout out Mookid." We're going to do the Prince episode one day, I swear. One day.
One day. It is 6 years in the making. But no, that run I think is like those songs are kind of like the archetypal like 2014-15 OG Plugg sound. So I think it would be a good like segue into a lot of this album.
I want to hear a lot of this Plugg and B discussion actually, because there's like the Plugg and B thing about it, like this the NB, like that with Carti is like the one thing about this that doesn't really sit with me. Like there's some stuff about that, like the songs feel like the length maybe doesn't go on. Like I feel like he kind of cedes the songs to the guest artist a little bit when it's like, if I hear Plugg and B correctly, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there are certain songs where he gives it up to other artists. If I'm hearing Plugg and B correctly, and like right now I'm just looking at kind of like the janky ass shit I put on my phone, And there are certain songs where it feels like other people take it over and sing.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 songs. Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially the ones where it's like him and Uno and Fani, and even him, like now this is not a Plugg song, I wouldn't say at all, but like the funniest song on here, I think, is the one with like him and Gucci and 21.
Okay, yeah, that was so fucking
It's
right?
very early. Yeah. It's very early 21.
That is so. Yeah. That was not okay. That for 21 is fucking hysterical. That is like the least 21 song ever.
Because Ben, that was before even like Slaughter Gang came out or any of those mixtapes.
That's like, not even what we talk about here. But for 21, that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
I think 21 had the best verse out of all of them, to be honest.
Yeah, Gucci was sleepwalking on that one. Like, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, Gucci kind of sleepwalked, for sure.
Gucci was sleeping, yeah.
He was locked up during this, I think, this time.
Yeah, this was, we got to consult Sophia on this, but I think this was, like, Ransom Gucci, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would.
It's just so, like, I honestly wouldn't have known unless he did give us a 21 ad lib on this, and I was like, wait, 21?
No, hold on.
Yeah. So that's bizarre. That was a bizarre song. That's not.
What do you think about the? Sorry, Ben. How many of the songs were like Chris Fresh song? I know the whole thing was.
I think.
And Fetty's Chris Fresh.
Fetty, and then there was he had like a freestyle. I think it was it.
Oh, the Playboi Fresh freestyle. Yeah.
Yes, Playboi Fresh freestyle. Yeah.
Well, Fetty I don't count because I think Fetty's its own thing. Fetty is a perfect song, and I will hear nothing against Fetty because Fetty is perfectly done.
I think everyone can agree that Fetty is like the obvious highlight, or at least one of the obvious highlights here.
Yeah,
it's the classic. There's no denying it.
I would say stand above the rest. I would say Fetty, Count It Up. I thought Beef was on here, but Beef is not on here, actually.
Beef should have been on here.
Spiritually, it is, but it's not. It's not. It should be. But yeah. But yeah, that ethereal beat, and that's a good, ethereal is all over this, and you talk about talk, but the OG was ethereal. Lost, which is a great beat. I love that beat on Lost. It's obviously the smash beat. Love the beat. Once again, like psychedelia for days with that beat. Also, I'm not gonna say it, Ben, but if you want to say the line, like I'm not gonna say it, but
no.
Shawty suck my dick in the bathroom.
Look,
it's
you have
genius.
To understand.
It's so genius.
Yeah,
Wyatt, if you want to make that the intro, you can make that the intro.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
actually yes. Actually yes. Throw it in there. Let's do it. Oh my gosh.
Fuck it.
Yeah. Love that song. Love that beat.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's got like such a weird little synth melody at the end that kind of doesn't even fit, but it's so amateurish. It almost comes out like it's so genius. It's amazing when it comes
That's what I love about this tape, though, is that there are little moments like that just come out. Like it's his personality coming out. It's not just a content dump throughout. Like you just see that he just has like this personality in the music, in like the little vocal moments and everything about it. Like that's what makes it just for 2 hours of this. Like it's not just 2 hours of a dude just that monotone, as Makami said, monotone bullshit raps on that song. So there's stuff on here that's less good, but it's 2 hours. There's one song here's like 5 minutes long that I did not care for. It's one of the freestyles, I think. The
ethereal freestyle, the For the People one.
Yeah, before the people one.
Caleb, you like
the For the People one is one of my favorites.
Okay, the For the People one. If Lil B did that, I'd like it.
Damn.
I'm gonna say
I'm just making sure we're thinking of the same one. The one toward the end of the.
Yeah.
the record.
It's like the 5-minute one, the freestyle
Yeah,
featuring
no,
Ethereal.
Yeah.
I know it's very repetitive. If Lil B did that,
Yes.
still
Yeah, it
probably
is a little repetitive. And that's kind of Ethereal style too, is it's a little bit of like simple beats, but I think that's why like they work great as freestyles. I know what's the other freestyle one? Pump Fake that he did,
I guess
where it's like 5 minutes long.
if Lil B did that, I would like it better. Not I would like it. I would give it a little, because it's still 5 minutes long of the same shit. So, but like there'd be a little.
I think Carti does he does like the short songs better than the long songs for sure.
I guess that's
like,
the biggest criticism I have of this is that he hadn't yet gotten that he doesn't have to make long songs. Like, because I feel like he didn't do anything of this length after this. Like,
Yeah,
I mean there were
what
stuff on Self-Titled, but the 2 long songs on Self-Titled worked together as a suite. Apparently so well to the point that I didn't notice. Where I fucked up on the next episode. Who knows? Who's to say? You as the listener don't know because this is non-linear. But yeah, like he really didn't like do anything really lengthy after this point. Like he knew to keep it to a decent length pretty much after this point.
Yeah, and I think like there is a samey aspect to certain sections of it. All good in my opinion. Like they're all good samey things, sounds that I really have always loved. But I do like how even though it is a bootleg and obviously it's not official, there are like cool sequencing quirks to it. There's a section that I thought was that I still think is kind of funny, where it's later on in the album or tape, whatever, bootleg, where you have like, what was the song that I was like, oh man, like did they try to make a hit here? Was it Purple Pool, right? That one is was that a pop hit that they were going for? Very interesting song, like to listen to now.
No, I didn't. I thought that was a reference to something I didn't understand. I skipped it.
I don't think
I figured that I didn't understand what he was going for. I was at work and I skipped it, so I did not get what he's going for on that. Actually, sorry.
I think the beat is great, and I think if
beat is a
Carti did a solo,
didn't get what he was going.
I think if it was a solo track, it would be way more like highly.
The feature is like a R&B. It's like a R&B.
But it's the vocal.
Thing. Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of like Nico's vocals.
But yeah, like I was at work. That was one of the ones I wish I had more time to give to. I just thought it was a reference to something of the time. I get what you're saying. I know what you're talking about. But yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it comes off of a stretch of songs that are like really like it comes off a really interesting run of songs that are mostly like either hype or have like great, outstanding, like harder beats. I mean, you look at like those like Splur Gang, obviously, the 3 of them, like that's a hard song.
Yeah.
The beat to Robber is super good. And then, but even above that, I mean, a song that grew on me a lot over time, and I actually had a newfound appreciation upon re-listening like earlier this week for this episode. Speedy Gonzalez, that beat is like
I mean, that's
it's got like a extraterrestrial vibe.
Yeah, that's probably my most underrated
I like
Carti
the
song.
beat on that song. I mean, and it got stuck in my head. I wish it didn't. I wish I didn't.
I adore this song. The hard ass drums at that catchy chorus from Justin Rose, who literally only made a 6ix9ine song and then dropped off the face of the earth. Like, what the heck happened?
Actually,
wait, he made a 6ix9ine song.
God damn it, you're right.
He did. He did the one
6ix9ine.
that was actually good. Yeah, and then never did anything again.
Right, made the best 6ix9ine song ever on this song. Like, fuck.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Damn, I never thought of it that way.
We also didn't need that though.
Yeah, but you have to. This is also a few years before.
Yeah, we also don't need you to fucking genome 6ix9ine.
I think 6ix9ine was copying a lot of people. Genome 6ix9ine, that's very funny. I guess, I hear you,
No,
Pat.
but like, you're right. That's actually like a good dumb song. Like, I can appreciate a good dumb song. Like, I can appreciate the aspects that went into that, but I mean, it got stuck in my, I didn't appreciate getting stuck in my head. I did not need on the lamp stuck in my head. Like,
I've had it in my head for the past month, and I'm chilling. I'm fine with it. Just different vibes.
I don't know.
He's just built different.
I don't need on the lay stuck in my head. I just don't need to be subconsciously saying that. Just not cool.
Ben, do you think Paper is like a famous Dex song, Ben? It kind of sounds like that to me.
Yeah.
That's not the one that like has the Dexter like tag to it, does it? There was
Is that
one
another
was,
one of those?
Oh no, I think it does actually. Oh, it does.
That was the one where
he uses
starts
that
with like
tag several
Dexter,
times.
and I thought it was.
He uses that tag.
I thought it was, but
does he? Does it?
I don't know.
I feel like he used that tag 2 or 3 times around that period. Like, that's the thing about the chronology on this. I feel like they just throw stuff together from like, I feel like that tag is there like around that period on this tape.
Well, it definitely was around. It definitely was around at that time for sure. I just don't know if I
feel like it's
heard
like
it
that's why like songs got confused because I feel like I heard that and I heard it like 2 songs later. That's why I'm saying it. So
I know we're talking about specific tracks here and there. Ben, is there a song that you wanted to talk about? Because I mean, this is some of your favorite Carti on here. So
I'm like thinking of what we hadn't covered.
Well, I mean the Uzi song. I mean, I think is
the Uzi song for me is top 5 on here.
That was obviously.
I used the one from the music video. I don't know if you guys heard a different version, but I always go for the music video one.
I always use the one from the music video. Yeah,
because I know that there's like 3 different versions of it, and I think the other 2 kind of suck. But the one where it includes like the stomping and the chanting, and the music video obviously is a classic in its own right. It's one of Carti's best.
It's so mid 2010s. It's so mid 2010s.
It is.
Just everything about it from the references to like the fashion choices to the car, everything is so like time capsule-y, more than really a lot of stuff that you can find from Carti. So I find it pretty amusing.
Yeah.
Like
for me, that's like peak of 1629. That's where it hit its peak. That's the best.
Do you think they're ever going to put something out? Because I don't think they're ever going to put something out.
No, I do not think they will put anything out.
I think that's a goddamn. Considering apparently how much material they recorded, like I was not aware of the tracker until you showed me the tracker, and apparently they worked together for a while and then got real pissed off at each other, which tracks, but do they get pissed off at each other?
Yeah,
I guess we can talk about
that era. The era right before Whole Lotta Red dropped, when they were like back and forth on like hating each other and loving each other, was so exhausting.
But also like there's a yes, I hate you, I love you. No, but that also could have been WWE, like could have been a little bit of that too.
That's true.
Wait, you want to talk about the feature that says like he has the Radiohead reference?
Oh, that's
on the cash, right?
Let's make this as fucking possible.
I just think it's hilarious that was on.
Still bump Radiohead proudly.
Yeah, something like that.
That's such a weird thing to say, and like
I think he might have said probably. I don't know. He said something about bumping Radiohead.
That's so weird.
Very strange. Yeah,
underrated track though. I think most people haven't really discovered that one. So, those like heavy synths and that.
I feel like some of the feature tracks are not as like talked about because the fan favorites and the define classics on here, those are going to be the ones that get the most.
Yeah, I think an underrated one that comes from like a feature is the Two-Door featuring Lambs. I think the beat is extremely underrated, and if it was solo Carti, it'd be rated as one of his best. Super cloudy. Carti flows over it great. I don't know how I feel about the Lambs feature, but the song,
well, it's also got a great like the Trap Money Benny, who is a slept on producer, I think, overall. I mean, that's not he never really got like a mainstream like full shot, right? I mean, he worked with a lot of artists like Yachty and Rico Nasty and
for someone who was so in on like the underground back then, like he never really got his props. I think
never got a mainstream.
He was kind of everywhere, and then
I know he did some stuff with Key later, but Key was never anywhere close to mainstream. Yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
No, for sure. For sure. I'm looking at some of the stuff that he produced, and it's like, damn, that's all good shit. But no, I mean, I think that song is in a tough stretch because the ones around it are the Talk Icy Twat remix.
No, that's true. Left, right.
You're in a stretch of fan favorites and classics, and that's a song in there. So that's tough, but
it's just tough competition. Like this is just like the fucking Olympics, and you're swimming against like Michael Phelps. Like it's
especially in that that run of songs too, where it's just like.
And that's why
even non-believers like those songs. I feel like
the thing about it is I think the analogy about Carti and Pollard all the time on this podcast, but he put out the things about Suitcase all the time, whereas he put out these 100-track dumps where it's like this is the shit I do in my spare time, and this is essentially Carti's Suitcase. Like this is just 100 tracks of what I did when I was in my amateur leagues. And his amateur leagues just made 8 genres that I don't even know anything about. You're talking about Uno the activist and Margella the slur guy who offends 18 people every week on Instagram or whoever the fuck, and 15 other people that I don't know the fuck about, and all these other guys. And
Caleb, did you introduce him? Was it you that introduced him to Margella?
I did not know.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is people. It just in the in our Discord, people were
Everybody
talking about it.
I just find that so funny.
SoundCloud.
Oh, it's objectively hilarious. Objectively,
I just find it funny that Pat knows about it.
Oh man, listen to SoundCloud rapper who yells into a mic, and I'm like, I might like this. And then Kitten Peeps he liked stuff, and then he's seriously.
Well, this didn't turn into a Patrick is old discussion. It was that music could be aggravating to anyone. It doesn't matter. That is an abrasive artist who I don't even like all their stuff sometimes. So
it's about Margella being abrasive now, by the way, because he is.
Yeah. Very, very, very abrasive, but also, bangers.
It was actually supposed to be about Carti just being somebody who just kind of just breaks genres without trying, because he doesn't try to, but he does. And it was more just about how there are certain artists like Gucci or to a lesser extent Thug. Because I don't think.
Well, do you think some of that is right place, right time, and then people catch on to what you're doing and they want to emulate it?
I mean, specifically the Plugg genre, I feel like you got to credit Carti more than just being right place, right time. I mean, Holyfield
is over. He's done it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Pat. That's a good point. I'm not trying to discredit my favorite artist, but I think it is interesting how often it's happened, where you have the impact of and this is not even these were just songs, they weren't even they were obviously unofficially assembled, but it wasn't even like they were pre-packaged for you in sequence in a way. These are all songs that people went out of their way to hear individually, probably for the most part. And they caught on and they became like these underground hits, like if you know type hits. So, and then to help, I mean, the production obviously is a huge part of that, but to help birth Plugg, which had this moment, and then it went away for a little bit, went away in the limelight, and then kind of came back, and now has been for the last few years like a staple in the underground. Now it has all these different
it is the underground
permutations, and it is the bedrock of what the quote unquote underground.
I would argue that the way that music has been disseminated is actually the way that information is disseminated now. Like 30-second chunks.
There are definitely parallels.
Which is not good, by the way. I mean, it might be good for music because like people can just like disseminate like, okay, I like this 30-second chunk of music, I want more of this. There's something more to this, whereas like there might be more to information. Maybe I should have more than 30 seconds of this, if that makes sense. But I feel like, I don't know, that point got away from me. But you understand what I'm saying. Playboi Carti is more important than politics, is my point.
Yeah, and that's
Playboi Carti is president is my secondary point.
Playboi
Carti 2020.
Someone has already come up with that.
I'm sure on Reddit right now that some dipshit is probably put him on a fucking ballot on the fucking Yay Reddit. Oh, god damn it. No, we're not
stop it.
We're not doing that.
Most ethical candidate of the 2024 election.
With that riff.
You gotta stop. We gotta stop doing this.
No, every time. Every single goddamn time. No, not tonight, Satan.
Not today. Ben, you said you had something to me last night that I wanted to readdress because first of all, you reminded me that I wrote a review for the track The Omen, which I forgot about. And then you said to me that it wasn't one of your favorites, but then like it rose up in your estimation a lot, like on revisiting. And to me, it was a similar deal where on revisiting those years ago, whenever I wrote that review, it struck me how it was kind of like a song that was unique in the sense that this producer who produced it did fuck all like things like OG Mako stuff, and that was like mostly it. And then Carti, it's like one of the darkest songs on here, just from like a mood perspective. And I find it pretty, pretty unique in that run of songs, especially because like it comes at an interesting position in the record where the songs that follow it are pretty psychedelic, and it closes out with like classics. And then before it, you had like we talked about the Purple Pool, which kind of sounded like try to make a pop song, and the Booty Chain remix, which to me is still mixed a little too low, even though like I like Booty Chain, but it was just mixed too low.
The lo-fi feel is so crazy on that one.
It is cool.
And it's kind of cool that they have.
I just have to jack the volume.
It's cool that they have like a collab too, because like Booty Chain is obviously very closely associated with Black Cray, so that's kind of like a neat little link right there. That
the closest they could ever come. Although it is ironic because you could hear Black Cray over some of this. I feel like no question.
Yeah.
Especially around this time, but he was making tread anyway. But yeah, The Omen. Like what struck you, I guess, on re-listens or any other songs that on re-listens you were like, oh shit, this rose up in myself.
One of them that like immediately stuck out to me that I totally slept on was Ooh, featuring Juice Savage. The beat is just so damn catchy. It's unbelievable. I think it should be considered a classic Carti track, honestly. It's just the repetition that Carti does so well, where he doesn't say much, and everything that he says, he said it before, but you hear it over and over again, and it gets wormed into your brain with this bouncy beat. It's genius. One of the more underrated tracks on here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when you said that, I think you said that yesterday. I revisited, and it was
Mm-hmm.
definitely one that I was into. I mean, we talked about how great the run at the top is, and it is. And then there's that run in the middle, Fetty, the Talk remix, the Two Door,
Yeah.
all that run. I mean, for me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but like those last 4 songs, like the way it ends to me is like
yeah.
In terms of sequencing, it isn't always like perfect on here, and the raw appeal or the rawness is part of the appeal in my view. But that's like sequencing the way it ends, like the freestyle for the people, 4 teaspoons, 4 tablespoons, whatever you want to call it.
4 tablespoons. We gotta 4 tablespoons. We gotta talk about that one. It's one of the best off the bootleg for sure.
That's
I don't know.
4 tablespoons is beautiful. I mean, the bands,
and
like their chemistry.
I don't know if you knew this, but yeah. Lucky, Watch My Back, the last song, Over, it's just that sped up. Like, it's the same beat.
I love that song. I love that song. That's a very good point.
And it never,
it always reminded me of something.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would
that's
be
a good
the one.
Pull. See, this is why we invite you on.
Okay.
Yeah. This is why we invite you on the podcast, because it's a good.
And then you just have all those Trapaholics tags scattered everywhere throughout the song.
Yeah.
I mean, Dro just like decided to throw every single one that he had in his beat pack, and it was, I don't know,
I like
over the atmospheric.
I like the one where it's like, stop, this shit is hot, and run it back.
Stop that, bring it back. This shit is hot.
Or toward the end.
Anytime that comes on.
Yeah. What's the one where toward the end where it's like, if this isn't the hottest thing out, like you're out of your goddamn mind or something like that.
Goddamn mind.
Yeah. Classic song.
I did not know that about the beat being just like sped up. That now I have to listen to it because I have both those songs on my hard drive. Damn, Bam, where'd you find that?
Damn, Ben, where'd you find that? Should petition for the next new trap. But those tags, Ben, to your point, like that really epitomizes like this era of rap music where
it's like the smoothest beat with just layers of nonsensical tags. It's genius. It's like it's the best thing to come out of SoundCloud rap, in my opinion. Is cloudy beats with overlaying sound effects. That's to me what says it all about SoundCloud rap.
And that's a perfect like encapsulation of like that song and what kind of like defines the era. And I think of one song that really made Plugg into like a mainstream thing was literally Plugg.
Like, see why you like Lil B so much.
Yeah, Lil B does that a lot. But Plugg is I would say it's between this and Broke Boy for the defining Plugg song, in my opinion. This is,
I think, having
pretty
the
much
name in the title, albeit maybe not a direct reference, but yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not linear. Maybe. But
yeah, maybe not. But I think that like just it's the apex. Patrick mentioned this where to me off air, but he was just like this is the apex of like Rich the Kid. Like this is not even close.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This is like
I don't think anybody.
Well, it's
not a contest at all.
Oh, bar though. To be fair, like he's got like 2. He's got like
Plugg Walk.
Yeah. Also with Plugg in the title.
Yeah.
He had that one song with Lil Wayne that I liked a lot, but that was was a long.
Is it like Feel Like T or something, or like he's got like one other good song with Wayne? Yeah.
He had a song with Kendrick that you probably heard.
He's again, like I said in that review I just wrote, he's like that dude who hangs out with your friend group who's like,
that's such a good review.
Like fine. And then like you can't remember anything about him.
Well, that was his whole deal, is he just kind of like rode the coattails of Migos, right? That was
like you ask anyone about him, it's like But it's like,
Yeah, he was the guy featured on the Migos mixtapes early on, and then made Plugg Walk, and that was about it.
He's actually
and New Freezer.
Yeah, he's fucking missed. Like, yeah, like there's nothing objectionable about Rich the Kid. Like, I couldn't say anything bad about him. To be fair, I've never listened to a full project of his. It's probably terrible, but
I think I listened to The World Is Yours when it came out,
and he sucked on it. But yeah, he was.
It's not the thing. The thing is like what epitomizes what Rich the Kid got from the Migos co-opting in a way was the fact that he was able to like just dole out this hook where it's just a perfect hook. Yeah, I mean, I am not going to rap on this podcast, but the whole hook is like ingrained in my brain.
Fine. But if you think about it, isn't ASAP Rocky low effort rap? Like,
maybe like higher ambition or concept. Doesn't
higher than Rich for sure.
Yeah, Rich is
Rocky is he's like low effort, but then he started making high ambition albums, which was kind of annoying. But like I don't know.
I'm not a big ASAP fan myself, but
it's weird because like I kind of appreciated what he was doing while still being irritated by it, which is a weird emotion to have.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably only go back to Live Love ASAP.
Yeah, right. The first one. That's probably the first one. Yeah, that's the only one.
Is that the first one? Did I say that right?
Yeah, no, you did.
It is the first one. It is the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
ASAP.
I'm like, they're another like At Long Last, and then he
did and then right, and then he was testing, and he failed.
He was testing a lot of. There was a lot of sounds on there. I will say I was just kind of slandering Rich the Kid, and I don't take all of it back. But I forgot, Ben. Did you like the Dex and Jay Critch collab tape? Rich Forever?
Oh
man, we didn't shit on Jay Critch.
Oh, you haven't heard it?
I don't think I even heard it. No.
That was
a lot.
That was a college. I played that a lot in college with my friends. So no, that was a dope
scene. Thing. That whole scene kind of is a blind spot for me.
A whole fucking tape of Jay Critch, though.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Patrick. Yeah, he has plenty of tapes. I hate to break it to you.
Single whole tape of Jay Critch seems like more than enough.
I mean, I'm not gonna go to war on that personally. I don't really care about like Jay Critch that much these days. But back in the day, I did like that collab tape. But yeah, on that song though, like Pete Kodak too, right? This No Flocking came out this year or that year that Plugg came out. Mm-hmm. Like this was Kodak was operating at a very high level.
Whole Kodak discussion again because it didn't go too great the last time we did so, but go on the song. Oh yeah. I mean, quotables on top of quotables.
Who would you guys say is your favorite verse on this one? Who would you say is your favorite?
Kodak,
definitely. Yeah. Kodak. I mean, I love the Carti verse.
Kodak.
I think Kodak
floats on
honest. Kodak just had probably one of his greatest verses ever.
Just because even the way
I think
it
Rich
comes in,
has his greatest verse too.
I mean, it's the greatest verse. Kodak fucking floats on this shit, dude. Like, I can understand why he was like next up after this. Like, if this was like heard off of him, like
he kind of switched up the flow.
And even the way it comes on, where he has like the little ad libs before it's like a, and then he immediately jumps into his verse. It's like he's like doing jumping jacks on the beat, and then he goes right into his verse. Like that's really cool. The vocal he's doing on there, which also reminds me of No Flocking because he does the same little pattern before he starts on No Flocking. So yeah, Kodak really it was a great era for him, and I think that song Plugg is a good way to capture the ethos of this, like the ethos of this whole bootleg, this whole Carti era, I feel like can be summed up in that song because it has like this brash attitude, it has this new sound that people would run with, and it has a presence in Carti on there that immediately stands out. And I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that the one thing about it is, again, he's still taken from like Keef, he's taken from Gucci, he's taken from other aspects. By the time he got to self-titled, he was more self-assured.
100%.
I think
he was more of
his
his own artist for sure.
Right.
Like
and
you can just hear it in the way he comes off in like location immediately. You can tell.
But like I said before, like there's still stuff here like Fetty, like Count It Up, like where he's still defining himself. Like even when he's taking from other artists, like he still has his own sound, but you can still tell he's taken from other artists. Whereas on self-titled, he has his own defined sound. So, but here you still hear that there's other influences. From self-titled onward, he's Carti.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Is like he's nascent.
You wouldn't make the mistake. You wouldn't make the mistake of for him. You wouldn't mistake him for another artist.
Exactly.
Past self-titled, whereas you could have here.
Right.
Yeah. No question. No question. I mean, yeah, I think that's as good of a point as ever to end it. I want to ask one more thing though. So Patrick, I sent you some Plugg classics. I saw that you reviewed "Wish the Worst," which
I love that, and yeah, I've never heard that dude before. I really love that. That was great. Yeah, who the fuck?
I think that's a defining song from the era too. Ben, do you have a favorite Plugg song from this era? It doesn't have to be Carti. It could be anyone. I'm just curious. Pick your favorite.
Dang, I wish. Gosh,
because my answer is Eye to Eye, but you could if you have another answer.
Eye to Eye is very much up there. I mean, that's classic. That's like bands at his peak, obviously. From this era, oh gosh, I wish I had more time to think about it, but
unfortunately, I sprung it on you. I'll hold that.
No, I know. I'm just like I'm blanking completely, which sucks because I should have way more knowledge.
So then your favorite song from the bootleg, then, if you don't want to give an answer, which
favorite song from the bootleg. Two that we didn't really get to talk about that are top 5 for me. Holyfield, just being one of the first Plugg songs in general. I think it's Mexico Joe's best beat he ever made, and if you put that on in the car, it's otherworldly. And then the other one is Every Since, which is extremely Sosa inspired.
Oh yeah, very Keef. Yeah.
And one of my favorite Carti hooks too. And ever since you left my side, I keep an eye on my side. Yeah. So catchy.
A lot of Keef to it too, in terms of like the disconnectedness into like the punchlines and stuff. I feel like is very like woozy. Yeah, like I don't know. I got a Keef vibe off the way, like playing with punchlines on that too. So
super anthemic too. Just like blow money, call me Holyfield. Throw money, call me Holyfield. Yeah,
he's definitely
love quoting that throughout the day.
That's what you do, like you're at work, and that's what you're just that's your go-to.
It's what I would quote every day if I wasn't around a bunch of weirdos at work. That's all.
Yeah, that's fair. That is the official stance of the podcast. Yeah, we can't always be walking around quoting Carti songs.
Want to, because we're all a bunch of fucking weirdos at our jobs.
It's a good stance,
especially Wyatt, because he can't yell juggalo shit at his job.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up?
Do you have any specific songs that you want to talk about?
No, I feel like we did a pretty good job holistically.
I feel like we caught most of them. Yeah.
I mean, it is tough to go into 2 hours of material, kind of like Patrick was alluding to earlier. But no, I mean, this is about as good of a place as any to stop. And listeners, we're gonna roll right into the self-titled. But before we even get there, Ben, want to thank you for coming on. Appreciate having you again. As always,
Thank you for having me. As always.
Yeah, frequent guest. And definitely not the last time, but glad we could have
Hopefully
you on.
not, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna go into the self-titled. But thank you guys for listening. And now the next sounds you'll hear are us talking with another special guest about the Playboi Carti self-titled record. So we'll see you. Peace. Who needs college when you have physical copies of the Playboi Carti self-titled?
Do they exist? Is the question. Did that come out?
It's on
they
vinyl,
do
but the
exist.
cover is way worse.
Oh, the cover. Oh, wait, this is something I don't actually know. What is the CD cover? Oh, I've seen that. Yes, I've seen that.
It's
it's like a fucking like one of those things. Like god damn it, it's like one of those things you could see at a mall where you look through something and it was like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like like a fucking gem thing. Like
it looks like they just made like a fan-made cover for but it's the actual cover.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole Leaks cover clears that by far.
100%.
Beautiful.
Well, I mean, like the other, cover arts for the other two, like the actual albums, are so much better for sure. But I don't know. Well, Dialet's cover, you seem not. Well, okay, that was I guess we could table that discussion for when we actually have discussions and actually have the show. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I feel like, as good of a time as any, because if you're.
And all of these are.
We can roll right into
all of these.
Yeah,
so.
we're rolling into each other because it's all part of one holistic thing. I mean,
tapestry. Yeah, it's a tapestry.
Right. Yeah, I mean, might as well, start if you're Living Off Borrowed Time listeners. This is part 2 of the Playboi Carti experience, the Odyssey, where we traverse all the eras of Playboi Carti's career. Chops, welcome. One Chops on RYM.
Greetings.
Special guest. You may have heard him on our Cloud Rap episode way back, but that was a great episode. So I actually re-listened to that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we talked about some good shit that episode. And actually, the reason why I bring that episode up is because during that episode, we had a little discussion about an album that we're not going to talk about today in full, Dialet. But that's kind of the reason why we're doing this long-form Playboi Carti episode, because it is the 5-year anniversary of Dialet. And at that time, I mean, this is like 3 years ago, but you had said that you weren't really nearly as fond of it as you were the self-titled and also, I think, the leaks and stuff for the Whole Lotta Red era. So it was not high in your Carti pantheon. So I guess my question, I'm asking this for all the guests that don't come on to talk about Dialet, but my question to you would be, has that kind of changed over the last few years? Like, how do you feel about Dialet now versus then? Or do you still feel the same way? What's your relationship to the album like?
Yeah, it's grown so much, I must say. Like, a lot has changed. I'm glad I kept coming back to it. I still think it's kind of spotty and there's some shit on there that I'm like, why is this on here? But I like that it's there. Like, it kind of adds to the whole, like I would never in my life, if I was executive producing it, would never have put like home KOD on there. But the fact that that's there and that like people still love it is kind of cool, I must say.
It is a weird song. That song,
kind of a story thing or something, like a character portrait.
Yeah,
between two of the best songs too. Like, really bizarre choice, but like, fuck it. I mean, it shows that people are down for a bit of experimentation, even if it's like a big album like this. So I always like it when that comes through.
How do you think? I mean, this is more of a macro question, I guess. You are in the UK. You've been there for, I imagine, most of your life. Would that be correct?
I've been in prison for a long time. Trapped on crack with no hope of escape.
How would you? Did Playboi Carti have like an uptick, you think, in the UK, like since the release of Dial It, or do you think like he was already like a thing over there before? Because I can say that was definitely true in like the States. Like I heard more people talking about him. You heard him just like he was more popular post Dial It, but I wonder about like other places.
That's a really good question. I think there definitely was, but it was honestly like I think it took maybe a little bit long because I remember when I was really into like the self-titled before Dial It came out, I had a really hard time like getting people into it. Like I would play it at parties and like just people wouldn't really be vibing, or like I would say like, oh, do you like Carti? And people would be like, oh, Cardi B, not really, and I'd be like, oh,
Right. It was like, around that time. Yeah.
People still make that joke, by the way. People still will make that fucking
still
joke.
Do?
Jeez. Yeah. I feel like you still get that. Like, I mean, you.
In my case, of
I still
like,
made them. So yeah, you still get that.
Yeah.
It's
I guess
it's a real fucking hack joke. It needs to be, but
yeah. Well, and so I guess on that self-titled topic. So you're on here to talk about the self-titled. This is part 2 of this pod. This long odyssey through Carti's discography. So this era, I guess, your pre-Carti exposure before the self-titled, I would like to know, because I think that's an interesting point to start with. And then 2, when the self-titled came out, like, did you take to it instantly? Like, kind of, go through, similar to Dial It, like what your relationship with that album was. So, what was yours?
Honestly, very little exposure before it came out. What I distinctly remember is, you've heard that Lil Yachty song, Shoot Out the Roof?
Yes, I have.
God, that song rips. We used to like play that a lot, but I remember hearing it and hearing him say like, "You ain't Uzi, you ain't Carti, damn sure not me." And I remember thinking like, okay, there's like a hierarchy, but I only know 2 of these people. Like,
well, they were, they were like all associated with like Awful, because that was in Atlanta, but they weren't.
Oh yeah.
They weren't like on. I don't think they were never on Awful, but they just were kind of like in the general like vicinity. I think.
Yeah, I think it must have made me go listen to Young Zanho, because I see I rated that like January 2017 or something. And then I don't know, like the big thing I guess with that album dropping is that it dropped the same day as Damn by Kendrick.
That's correct. Yeah. And
I remember seeing reviews on my page being like, this is the better album that dropped this day, like easily.
Yeah, there were definitely some of those opinions, although I would not say whether it was RYM or the world or the general internet world. That was a very, 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 very minority opinion. Yeah, especially at that time when.
Is it your opinion?
Liking Carti.
Retrospect.
Yes, it would definitely be the correct opinion. Yeah.
In retrospect, I think that I'm gonna just step right in, fucking steamroll the whole conversation. At first, I think that one seems okay. On initial blush, the Kendrick album's better. With time, I think the Carti album's better. But I think for what they're trying to accomplish, they're equal. They're trying to accomplish completely different things.
Oh yeah.
So it's not apples. It's not a 1-to-1. So it's not a fair fucking comparison, and neither artist would argue it is.
I think
if we have the fucking RYM chart discussions where it's like this Norwegian death metal album's getting compared to a Young Thug album or some shit. Like, the fuck are you comparing? Like, get out of each other's comment boxes. So stop arguing with each other. But from my own personal experience at the time, I enjoyed the Kendrick album more at first because it's more immediately appealing to what I liked in music, in hip hop, in music in general. I really gravitated towards. I mainly listened to, like, I was compared to you guys, a late adopter of Carti. I think we kind of covered. Well, I mean, goddamn, the non-linear recording thing. Like, as a listener, you will not.
But even on the pod, we've talked about Carti.
I suppose we have, for that. I was a bit of a late adopter in that. Like, I mainly gravitated towards Carti. I'm not the Young Zanho period. I was not there for period. Sorry for the trouble on that. Mainly, we had Fraud on Location. That was it. Like, that's why I came to it. I have a really shitty review that I redacted today, actually, because I knew that I was recording this episode. I formally redacted the review where I was just like, this is a really good production album that will make you dumber for listening to it. It won't make you dumber for listening to it. No music will, in fact, make you dumber for listening to it, except
It makes you swaggier for listening to it.
Except maybe Meghan Trainor or Lil Dicky or like fucking Christian worship music. Or like fucking NSBM. NSBM will actually make you dumber for listening to it. That for sure.
Hobson, maybe.
Flex. Some Flex will do that.
Okay, I think I actually opened in Pandora's. I wasn't trying to with that one.
No, fair.
But my point being is that this was not like, I guess I keep going back to this example. It goes way back to our TV episode at the very least about David Simon calling The Wire season 1 a training exercise about reaccustoming you to what you're not used to, essentially. And I feel like this is a bit of a training exercise for a new listener, because we kind of established this on you as the listener have not heard this episode yet, the Whole Lot of Red episode about like new scenes and everything. And there's one specific song on here that actually burst the whole genre. Like right out the gate.
True.
But,
yeah.
True.
Yes.
And I
so
think
and
what Carti's doing on this, I just have a thought I want to finish, but then I'll
sure, go ahead.
But it's more that I think what Carti's doing on here, consciously or not, is taking an old framework. Because some of these songs are, and it's interesting, when I re-listened to this today, I was thinking about how when I heard it back in the day, I'm like, oh man, this is just like ad-libs dragged out for 3 minutes. First of all, it's totally not. These are rap verses. Like, I was fucking brainworms, because he is actually rapping for 3 minutes on these songs. Like, if he's rapping like, full, bars, son, whatever. No, he's not. But I think that's more because I've become more accustomed to the style of, it's a training exercise. He's changed since. But at the time, it was so mind-blowing to me that he could repeat refrains, he could repeat cadences, he could not just do a bar that rhymed with another bar that, refer back to the previous bar, the OG Nick Marsh rap genius style of rap that we so revere. Like, he kind of played with that formula. It just seemed like he was ad-libbing over and over, especially on Location, which is the song that opens the album. It seemed mind-blowing, and he really did just kind of reinvent the template. And I feel like then his next two are actually more overtly experimental. But here, this doesn't feel, with nearly a decade of hindsight, it doesn't feel so experimental, and that's because he actually changed the fucking landscape with it.
Oh yeah, he might be the the most recent person to reinvent rapping, arguably.
Yeah, well, I think
was Thug like laid the groundwork, but I think that he Thug had more, like, Thug was more versatile, I think, but Carti was more uncompromising, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where you end up like innovating by simplifying a little bit, like simplify what Thug did, and then suddenly you've got this like new thing that's different enough to be its own thing. Is how I see it.
Rap is a genre that, because it's still so young in comparison to a lot of other stuff, is something that I feel is constantly innovating. Now, that might not seem like it's the case, but when you look at things with hindsight and with context like we're doing, we can clearly see it, Yeah, sure. So something like Thug and Future, which came out, which exploded a few, about 4 years before Carti, this album came out, the self-titled album came out. And then you can kind of see that torch being passed once we hit the Die Lit era, because those other two artists had kind of slowed down in their production and their relevance was still very high at the time, but just they had kind of stopped being trailblazers and more just coasting and being like, solid mainstream artists. Yeah. And then you had, Carti had this torch. And now, in the 2020s, we've still seen him, release an incredibly, relevant album. But I imagine at some point there will be, more torch-bearing past. And there's a lot of gestation in the rap underground that is, I think, in some cases just like really good music, and in some cases like music that I'd consider groundbreaking, but it's not on anywhere near a scale yet that it could be taken and ran with. So yeah, I think Carti is like the last massive rapper, a rapper that became massive to really alter the landscape, and you can kind of see the after effects of it, in whether it's in the mainstream, whether it's in pop music, or whether it's in the underground hip hop. Like, there's a huge the wake of these albums that we're going to be talking about, and the self-titled are definitely there. Patrick made a good point about comparing about comparing Damn to this, because while you were going through your thought exercise about what the two were trying to accomplish, I thought it's interesting because Damn, for the mid to late 2010s, was kind of like, in my opinion, I might be missing one, but like the last really good mainstream like prestige rap album. And then that came out on the same day as this, which was doing something obviously on the total end of the map, has this like, you know, kind of rebellious but also like I'm too cool for you energy. And then that energy immediately, like, you know, carried one artist in one direction, and then Damn, you know, Kendrick kind of sat back and, all right, like, you know, five years passed before he dropped something else.
Yeah,
like I thought that was.
You forgot "Melt My Eyes, See Your Future" by Denzel Curry. That's actually the best one.
Well, not on the level of popularity for sure, but yes, definitely from ambitions wise, he was trying.
Denzel's still the most underrated in the game.
Chops, was your review or post, were you the one who said on, I forget what track it was, where it's like, this ain't pop, this some raw, where you said you thought you were saying Sun Ra?
I absolutely thought you were saying Sun Ra.
Yeah, I was listening to it again today, and I thought about that, and I've been going through a big Sun Ra thing because of the DJ Muggs Sun Ra beat tape, and I really want to put Playboi Carti over Sun Ra now.
Oh, if you can.
I want like Carti ad libs over like 20 minutes of Atlantis now.
Oh, that would be what's the really great Languidity, right? Is that forget?
Yeah, Languidity of his best.
Great album. Yeah, that would be sick.
So yeah, this ain't pop, this some raw. But yeah, like I heard Sun Ra, like after reading that, I heard Sun Ra for the longest. And when I heard it again today, I was like, I can absolutely hear him saying Sun Ra. Like I don't know if he even knows who Sun Ra is. Although there are some comparisons to be made fashion wise. And like, I mean, you could actually write like a good master's thesis on that bullshit.
I'm looking up Sun Ra's drip right now.
You could bullshit fucking rant on that. So
well, we already did the Robert Pollard stuff. Like, what's the next step? Like
Sun Ra. That's like the third. There you go. That's the third corner of the Triforce there on the podcast. Sun Ra, Robert Pollard, Playboi Carti. There you go.
Absolutely. The
people won't make for us. So
only podcast that loves Sun Ra and Carti.
Yeah.
And Bob Pollard.
The middle of the slim.
And Bob Pollard.
But yeah, with Damn versus like Playboi Carti, that's one of the, to me, that's like a comparison which they are very different, but the difference does actually like show you something, because the other thing about it is Damn to me is pure like first year of Trump, and like Kendrick basically like realizing he can't change the world as much as he thinks he can, and kind of turning like inwards and shit. So like as a point in time, like it really is like just reflective of that point in time. But then the Carti album to me is more like, if you're looking for like, if you were in 2017 and you were like looking for like a fun time, to me this was like the most appealing thing going back then. So I just couldn't help but like get slowly drawn into it to a degree.
Also, how
like it's
actually a curator type question, because I think Caleb might be the one who's most equipped to answer this. How old is some of this material?
Some of the material was definitely recorded in 16, I believe. It's like some of the songs a lot of the songs that were on the project had leaked in some version before the project came out, but they were definitely different to use a off-air reference. So I had sent you that document of all the Carti tracker. Okay, so from what I'm aware of, there were a couple songs that leaked like right before it came out, but maybe like I think the oldest one is like I think Lookin' came out and it leaked in 16, but everything else, I think if it leaked like either right before the album came out or like years after the fact in a different version, basically. I know the conversation around it at the time was that Carti was never going to drop an album. That's what I do remember. Because I had gotten into, I guess this is my French talk about him, I had got into him before this mixtape came out, but not that much prior to. Like, I think I heard him. I had heard him on Plugg, the Rich the Kid and Kodak song. I had heard, and I love that song. And I had heard him on a couple other songs. I think I heard Broke Boy, and I think I heard him on Telephone Calls off that ASAP mixtape the year before with Tyler the Creator and that whole camp. And he was on Telephone Calls, and he didn't give a lot. It was like a short feature. Kind of like his feature on Raft, to offer that comparison. But
which
I
is
was like,
we'll get to that. Like, I feel like we're going to kind of tuck in at the end afterwards, like about like relevant like features and Lucy's and whatnot. But I think it's very interesting considering that Rocky's on the album. I think that it's very interesting that Rocky, who I think is like probably in the top 3 of like swag Draculas of the era, alongside and Drake, like in terms of just trying to like take the wave, and Cole, I would say. Although I think Cole more is kind of trying in his own earnest way, because Cole was nothing if not earnest, trying to like big people up, but he definitely tries to like steal their wave. Whereas I think the other two are just kind of especially in Drake's case, just trying to subsume the wave, or the other 3, I should say, because Rocky's involved. Like in the ASAP things, they just really more than the others wholesale tried to steal Carti's wave.
yeah, I mean, you can see that in the beginning of Carti's like rise, when he was like kind of he was a part of ASAP.
Mm-hmm. He was the only member that didn't have an ASAP.
Yeah.
Like, we had ASAP Josh. Shout out to ASAP Josh.
We had
ASAP Josh in the building.
But he was, so there were parts of Carti's early career where he wasn't trying to sound like Rocky. He was still a unique voice, but it was more in a lane that could be connected to that world. Versus when this mixtape comes out, you're like, oh, nobody sounds like this. You know? So I think that's interesting on it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like pre-exposure, I was looking forward to it, and I remember liking it when it came out, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I love it as much as I do today when it came out. I definitely liked it, but I would say a few months after, like to your point, Chops, about having a fun time, that summer, I would, because it came out in the spring. And I think like that summer, like I was just finishing up my first year at college that summer, and I remember just like driving around, and I would always play this tape when I'd be just like driving around, like from, if I didn't have anything, if I didn't know what to throw on, like I would always be playing this tape. It's a perfect spring and summer tape, like perfect. I play it every year around this time of year. The first few days it always gets like warm. I always play it because it just like not only for like the memories and the, you know, fake nostalgia or whatever, but just like the fact of the music really reflects that warmth. It's definitely the warmest sounding Carti album.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In a certain sense, yeah.
That's a great point to make, just in that normally for the pod, I will do like headphone listening prior to do the homework. We obviously had very little amount of homework for this one, and I had some errands to run, so I was playing it in the car. We have gorgeous weather in Pennsylvania today. We were blessed with it, and so it was the perfect weather to just listen to this. And I hadn't listened to the whole thing in full in a while, and I was just struck by how wonderfully warm weather this album is. Like, it's just meant for like. And my car is like bass boosted and whatnot, and this album is perfectly calibrated for that. And just hearing certain songs with that going with like the sun beaming in the windows just felt right. It just felt like the perfect experience to be listening to it. Just like I took the long route to get certain places just because it felt like the perfect, like ideal listening experience to hear these songs. So. Like, especially, like, the second half of Kelly K, I would say, which I would say is...
Oh, yeah.
Even when I was never cold on the album, but there was a time, like, it was front-loaded, mainly, and then I felt like the 2 best songs were in the front, and then Kelly K was, like, the one song on the back that was, like, it was, quote-unquote, ambitious. It still opened together. And here, okay, I'm going to just throw this hot take out there. This song is kind of Blonde vibes, and we can have a whole other discussion because I brought it up. You know, if we want to talk about the thing.
Wait, do you mean Flex? Because that's the one with the switch up in the second half. I just want to make sure.
Well, I was
the one
listening
they're
to
singing
it.
and
They're both longer songs, to be fair.
Well,
Yeah.
now that I'm looking at the page, you're right. Flex has the female vocal on it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think.
And it has the one where he's like singing on at the end of it.
Yeah, no, I actually. Well, okay, we can scratch it off on your bingo card that I made an egregious mistake because that's.
Well, they're right next to each other, right? So yeah, it's okay.
yeah, that happened at some point.
I've ever made, but I always thought that there was one song on the very end half, and I always thought that was Kelly K, and I always thought it was Kelly K because it was like a song about a female, because that seemed like the obvious reference given the song title. But
Flex is incredible.
I thought like kind
absolutely.
of a blonde there. It kind of reminded me of either Future or Free or a little bit of White Ferrari, although White Ferrari doesn't really switch up like that, and it's certainly not as emotionally devastating as White Ferrari. But
I love the
shit on people who said shit about Frank Ocean.
Oh, we can clear out and get mad at the Coachella defenders.
Sure, yeah. Well, not.
No, I know.
I misunderstood. Yeah, no. Like, if you think anything, you can't listen to the podcast. First of all, I don't think any of those people would be listening to the podcast.
I just think I think it's being like a vulture to be like, actually, my take about Frank Ocean was that the music was never good, and I think he's, and I think he's in the wrong for not doing X, Y, and Z at this festival. It's like, don't stick to your one point. If you want to stick to your one wrong opinion, then do that. But then don't shoehorn in another wrong opinion.
Yeah, your one wrong opinion is not your fucking magic mushroom power up to hit 4 or 5 even worse opinions along the way.
Like, I know, look, I understand the three of us are all definitely like in the bag for the Frank music, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that people were being like nasty about him for a week straight online. Like, that's gross. Like,
just full disclosure, I have not watched the Coachella set. I tempted to watch certain songs. Like somebody said, White Ferrari was really great.
Yeah,
the full thing is way better than what people are making it out to be.
And I have a certain affinity for like flawed live performances. Again, like, clearly the podcast stance is softening on certain things because I've mentioned Kanye a bit and whatever. Like the Donda performances, I will say I saw a lot of value in things that other people did. Not the first one. The first one was a fucking disaster, but the second and third ones. So I will say that I'm probably going to see a lot more value in that performance than other people did, even if it was, technically, quote unquote, a disaster. Obviously the story was not out there, but that didn't stop people 5 seconds afterwards from getting on Elon Musk's Twitter and venting their fucking spleen and speaking on his mental illness and speaking on his curatorial ability. And then 10 minutes after that, speaking on his entire catalog as if they didn't like it to begin with. Like, retroactively.
Yeah, like me, I saw a tweet that was just essentially said, like, quote, like, I'm paraphrasing, but Frank Ocean is a loser. Like, the music was never even that good. Like, you gotta go out there for your fans. I mean, like, what are we doing? Like, like, why tweet that? Like, what is the point?
I mean, that should be the most tweets. Why tweet that? Why just cease? Yeah.
Why tweet that? I think is the official stance of the podcast about almost anything.
That is, take 10 minutes after you were like.
Yeah. You don't need to hit send on the tweet.
The discourse does not need your input.
No. And friend of the podcast, Look at Go, shout out to him, said it perfectly. He was just like, I can't imagine, because it was bleeding into RYM as well. The lovely site we all love. It's like, I couldn't imagine going to like the blonde comment box to weigh in on this. Like, no, you don't need to do that.
God forbid Lana Del Rey ever did a Coachella set like this.
Oh my god.
A woman not being fully prepared for her performance.
Yeah. It's over. It's over.
It's not fully prepared. I mean, it was probably the gay genes, It was the gay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But on a less depressing note, should we talk about the album in full?
I think Frank Ocean can't make music. You can't listen to this fucking podcast. If you need to clarify that, fuck you. But my point was Flex, I think, is the most musically ambitious point on here, and I think that 2-song stretch. Actually, I think that there might not be a beat switch on Kelly K. I need to obviously clearly I need to re-listen because I thought I got the songs mixed up, but I think there are subtle evolutions.
No, it does. It builds a little. Yeah.
But I mean in the beats in general too, because I feel like these are more. Does this have an experimental tag on it? It doesn't. It probably should. I think.
Thinking of the beat for what is it, other shit, where it
Yeah.
It's
that's a goofy, silly beat.
That's a lovely beat, but it's kind of goofy, kind of silly, I must say. But I do love it to bits.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's just, it's funny. It makes me laugh. It's a little playful. Yeah.
It could have been Tissa. It could have been a Tissa Korean beat, kind of halfway.
Oh, I could see it, especially in 20, a year or two later, Tissa Korean. What was that era? It was the album with the, I don't know why I'm forgetting. The one where he's a partying freshman. Yeah, something like that.
That was
around that era. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it. I want to just issue a correction for something I said earlier, if I may.
Sure. Go ahead.
Probably no one listening noticed this, but when we were talking about music that could potentially make you dumb, I said Flex, but I forgot there's a song on this album called Flex. I was talking about the label, not the song. No way that song is making anyone dumb.
I don't think anybody actually. I mean, you mean you're welcome to make that correction. I don't think anybody actually
knows what that is.
Oh God! I actually, because you have the list.
Yeah,
that I was going to listen to that stuff.
I have not listened to listening would know what I meant, but I forgot. Patrick, you're better off if you don't. I promise.
I was going to say, I think you're not somebody said. Patrick's not going to like any of this shit. Patrick's really going to like this shit.
There's some good trap metal on there, to be fair.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of skimming through it. I'm this doesn't really seem like my scene, but
I do want your opinion one day on Submarine Man, or your response, because I think that might destroy your brain.
Open to anything. Contrary to popular opinion, I am open to anything.
Well,
that was a shot at me. I'll take it.
No, it was a shot at a lot of people, actually, not just you. Yeah, at you too, but still.
I understand. My offline discussion, my point was misconstrued, but regardless, I understand. I do get it. I mean,
that was not actually in the context of this discussion. I was not trying to directly, at you.
No.
That is a cliche about me in real life too. Not even intended with music. I feel like I just have this fucking stereotype that I'm just obstinate and don't like things that
your demeanor is negatively predisposed or something. Yeah,
I really don't. I will literally fucking try anything.
I think you're a very minded listener on the whole, and we will get you into Taylor Swift.
Once again, 2 episodes of Drain Gang. I am remarkably positive about this music.
It's true. He is. And
2 episodes of clown rap. 2 episodes of clown.
less positive.
I mean, but still positive. More than either of you motherfuckers. You ninjas.
That's true. Yeah, you were definitely more positive than me.
Yeah, you didn't even end the second session.
I didn't even show up. I was,
college, but
I did. I dropped out of clown college, no question.
I don't trust you that.
But no. On the album, I mean, I guess we should start. I mean, location. I mean, I don't know what you even like.
Mwah. Shit.
It's so beautiful. I don't even know what you say.
This was a single, and it was top 100.
Yeah, for sure.
Those were the days.
Up there with Birth of Rap in terms of just Gates of Heaven opening style beats. Just it just sounds like light shining through a window.
Absolutely.
If you can make that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that that guitar part that comes in at random at one part, I think it's from the sample, but that's a hell of a
yes.
In the discography or anything you know what?
It's it's on the bridge, right? That guitar that comes in.
Yeah.
And he's pull up, I send a location. Pull up, I send. Yeah. I'm gonna try to limit my rapping on here, my awful rapping. So I will try to limit that. You know, apologies in
for the
advance.
tape, I understand.
Yeah.
But Magnolia kind of took a little bit to grow on me, I must say.
Really?
Somehow.
Well, it is kind of like, I would say, unique in its presentation, but the hook is just like, the hook is so sticky. I think one of the first times I heard it, like after I initially heard it like on Spotify or whatever platform I listened to, I watched like a YouTube video of a guy like skateboarding to the song, and then I immediately like loved the song because I was like, it was a cool video and the song was playing and it was like perfect.
You may have to send me that. I want to see.
Oh, I'll have to dig it up. It's been years since I've seen it. I'll try to find it.
Well, speaking of cool videos, have you ever seen the video of it's like a dance troupe doing "Looking" from this? And like when Uzi goes, "Chopper got the stick, make you do backflip," they like lift a guy up and he fucking backflips on that line and hits the ground and everyone goes crazy.
Oh, you know what? I don't know if I've seen that one exactly, but I've definitely seen dances to that part in the song.
This whole tape is such good like dance music.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's just and like you had said, it is very it's fun. It's fun. Like it's, fun vibes. There's not really a lull in terms of like the consistent fun. I mean, that opening 4-song run. I mean,
it is.
When Woke Up Like This comes on and he does like the I'm a rock star, like I have to do it. I have to do it with them. And it also captures that whole like ethos around the time of like, we kind of talked about this when talking about Carti in the past on the podcast, but it was just like the whole like, rock stars and, this kind of bratty energy, which has been in hip hop forever. But this kind of energy around Carti, Uzi, Lil Yachty, people of that ilk in the mid 2010s. And then they come on a song and they do that. Like it's
true.
It's pretty fun. Also, it's a very like another super sticky hook where it's just like, woke up, they're sounding like me. Like, everybody sounded like me. Like it's easy message to convey in a short hook,
Yeah.
And considering
if you woke up and like your cat sounded like you.
Considering what would happen with that song in that genre, very predictive, right? Predictive programming.
He couldn't even have known that was going to be on the nose the way it was.
Honest, I've never thought about that. That's true. That's so true.
And it's fun, and it's so true because no matter if you even do any semblance of this sort of like vocal inflections or style or anything, even if you're doing your own thing, you're gonna get Carti comparisons, just because of how influential and everything, and et cetera, et cetera.
For sure. And then
it's, I guess, sort of the same thing. I mean, I didn't think we were going to keep making so many Kendrick comparisons on this one. I guess it's kind of sort of the same thing as Kendrick, or maybe Wayne, where it's just like he's so iconic with his like delivery and vocal inflections that even if you're not trying to, even if it's not like a 1-to-1 with like Jid and Kendrick or something, like Wayne, like, I don't know, just like maybe people are at this point, and the way like the culture is, the way the music absorption culture is, people are so unconsciously influenced by Carti that they don't even realize it. And I feel like that way with Wayne, with people like who grew up on that sort of internet music culture, that Wayne is so in the bloodstream, and Kendrick to a point too.
Absolutely.
Before Wayne, I think, because I think people grew up on Wayne and Wayne's music being everywhere, where I don't know if that point made sense, but.
And for sure. In the UK, but you may
Carti obviously like internet wise, like people are just getting that shit, that content, like just like by the bulk load, and then they were immediately turning it around and making their own music. Some of them even getting signed to the label. So, but I don't think a lot of times it was conscious emulation. Sometimes
no, absolutely.
Like I hear Ken Carson, and this is going to be for the later episodes, but I feel like that's obviously conscious emulation. But I don't think it's something as simple as, I don't know, certain other internet music critic that we talk about way too much, like saying that they all are trying to die more lit or some dumb fucking phrase. I feel like it's just some
Yeah,
people say
it's
sound similar because they're on the same scene. But I feel like you could just extrapolate that into other people in the same time frame, all are going to sound the same because he's just that obscene, like that ubiquitous.
no, yeah, especially as the years have gone on, like 100%. I could not I couldn't agree more. I mean, and it all this album. What's so kind of quaint to me about it, and you know, Chops, you'll have to let me know if you agree, but there's something nice about, even though it is definitely forward thinking, and it is definitely you know, has, I mean, outside of, you know, making the first like rate song on record probably, and you know, being ahead of its time in that regard, there is something quaint about hearing like a 2017, you know, quote unquote, like trap rap, you know, trap pop album that were removed from that era, when even in that era it sounded way different than a lot of the stuff that was like oversaturated at the time. But there are still some of the same like percussion and like, you know, drum stuff and things like that that are similar to that era that now I kind of look back on with like a sort of like fondness because we've moved on.
Yeah. We're in this odd place because like a Whole Lot of Red is like more way more like, I want to say way more, or that there's like a lot more stuff that sounds specifically like Whole Lot of Red, but like I don't know that there's much that sounds like this. I want to say, like, I think it's in this weird little bit where like not a lot of people were like running with his sound back then that I noticed, and then not a lot of people are like dipping back to this particular sound now. Like people would. I think there were more people like running with the like Yachty thing, I want to say, or like Uzi. And so now it's kind of its own world a little bit.
Yeah, I think Uzi is a good reference point. What I was getting out of this when I revisited it today was that it reminded me of a fusion of like more recent stuff, which obviously he's been a big influence on, and like older cloud rap. And I think that's why Fraud's up there up front. Like you've got Fraud there being like the older cloud rap influence, and then you have Pierre. This is my first exposure to Pierre, and I think we really do need to kind of extrapolate the Pierre discussion. Then Uzi obviously is like he's here on 2 tracks, very upfront, like including the Rage track, like the birth of a genre. And so yeah, like you have Uzi there. Uzi's like the future. Rocky's there, kind of being the contemporary of the past. Pierre, like you have Fraud there up front, kind of being the past. You have Pierre there being kind of the future. Like it's just such like a fucking gumbo stew, a polyglot of like influences that were never be together before or since.
That's a pretty cool like cloud rap pedigree to have, Harry, Fraud, and ASAP. Like
100%.
It's a good link back to like the early 2010s.
Yeah, and you know, it kind of goes. Carti always had that kind of connection. I mean, his very first like project that you could still find from, you know, back in like 2012, he kind of tried to sound like, you know, ASAP in a way. I mean, or someone that could be of that nature. So yeah, he still had like that connection to it, and we'll get to it in the, you know, Whole Lot of Red like Leaks era. But you know, No Charm could have been on this tape. It was recorded in the same sessions. So you know, that's another one where that takes the location cloudy thing and like, you know, I think even turns up the nozzle on that. So
I think my favorite thing from that bootleg that was from this era was the one where like Drake was going to be on it. It's the one with the heartbeat that's like do 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 do. What's that called? One Day. Yeah.
One day, yes. One day. I'm gonna have it one day.
That's like a Drake wasn't on Lost in the World type situation where we're very glad that Drake did not like Dracula that one real quick. Like he didn't like get that fucking life crystal and suck the essence out of it. Like, thank you, Aubrey, for you know
sparing us one time. Yeah. No, I think that one, you know, is a great one too. But I think we referenced this at the very top of the podcast. Half and Half is one that grew on me a lot. Like that song from the initial to now, like the way it comes on, it's so cool. It's so effortless. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, he's like tightrope walking on the beat. The bounce to it.
One of the things that I love about Carti, and this is something I appreciated with time. And it was more and more like, I thought by the time Carti came out that I was already over my whole Bar Son phase, but I really truly wasn't, because I wrote that fucking review where I'm like, it'll make you dumber. Clearly I wasn't, because hip hop has always been a vocal art form, not so like, and that encompasses that it's about how you talk about, like I always say this, but I clearly didn't mean it fully, in that it's about how, not just about what you say, but about how you say it. Therefore, you can say things. They don't necessarily have to quote unquote mean something. Like some of the stuff he's saying on here is just vapid misogynistic bullshit. Like, yeah, it is, but he makes it sound fly as hell. Like that's just the prima facie facts of the matter. Like there's, it's just great flow and just cool ass way of saying stuff. So like, and I feel like there have been points in the future, like I would not argue this as being like this is not me going on and saying this is a lyrical tape, nor me saying lyrics don't matter. Not even me saying lyrics don't matter in his specific case, because he's had lyrical stuff. Like I feel like I'm getting kind of far afield here, but I feel like this is the kind of the case I try and make on the Whole Lotta Red episode as well, is that he is technical in a way he doesn't get credit for, and that also lyrics don't necessarily matter in his case, but he can be lyrical. And also he makes all of this work, like, because he's a vocal artist who can have songs that are and are lyrical. He can have songs that aren't lyrical. He can have songs that are melodic. He makes them all blend together. Like, because every rap song doesn't have to be the same thing. It's not a Henry Ford fucking assembly line. Every song isn't like Rap Critic, like, Bar Son. That's not hip hop.
I feel, here's where I feel bad for having my favorite verses on the albums be the verses that are like that, but.
Well, that's fine though. I mean, like, your favorite artists aren't great people. My wedding song was written by Ryan Adams. Your favorite artists aren't great people. So, yeah, I don't need to point you to how many hours of this podcast were devoted to a guy who is an out and proud Nazi.
Yeah, like it is not.
I don't need.
I think there's a.
Yeah, we can again, like Carti's personal life. We're not gonna again, not a great dude.
Yeah, I think relitigating all that is kind of like something that we had, unfortunately, had talked about more.
But I'm kind of trying to get a story on that one. But lyric, that was not even what I was trying to get at with that. It was just more about the idea of lyrical content versus delivery is what I was trying. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I feel you. It's like, I feel like if you are writing a really crazy lyrical verse, it's kind of hard to work rhythm into it in a way that feels very natural and spontaneous. It kind of it's most likely gonna sound super constructed. But hey, when you simplify the formula this much, it's a lot easier to just slip into a rhythm and just do what fits what
one of my favorite I'm going to circle back to something. What one of my favorite Kendrick lyrical performances? Collard Greens by Schoolboy Q.
Oh, yeah.
He ain't saying shit like
that. No, and that's the whole thing. It's what is the idea of what quote-unquote content is in your verse or your hook or whatever in your song in general is so poorly defined, and really it should just be subjective. That's content doesn't, that's a word that doesn't mean anything. Substance is another great word that people like to use. That word doesn't mean anything.
How am I supposed to consume this content if there's no content in the content? What the hell?
It's like you sound like an exhibit on Pimp My Ride. Yo, dog, I got some content in your content because I heard you like content.
Yeah.
But even the whole substance versus style is a very outdated critique, but just something that you'll still see pop up as it relates to music like this, and why is it always hip hop? Interesting, but anyway.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it doesn't really come up with Actually, I was thinking about this with the whole rock and hip hop thing because we were talking about rock and hip hop on the Currency episode and Muscle Car Chronicles and all that, and then I was thinking about Cool Kids and hip hop rock. crossovers and how hip hop is like the one genre that keeps going back on itself, rejecting itself. But it's like, that's not actually true. You have hip hop, you have rock rejecting itself, but not really. Rock is rejecting other genres in rock. Like old time rock and roll is rejecting Don't Let Me In That Disco. Disco, you know?
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's always weird. It's like, but
it's and I love
or what this very subtle context is. There's always other stuff, just saying. But
There's always other stuff. True.
Stuff, just these other weird other things that keep getting rejected here.
We need to stop saying content and start saying stuff. I'm a stuff creator.
I make stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I do.
I do
stuff. I'm Shane Dawson. I make stuff. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It was more thinking about just like the integration of rock into hip hop and how that's actually always been there as sort of like a failsafe, and that's been there at the very least since I always go back to Rick Rubin doing it with LL Cool J with the Beastie Boys, and it's like
I think it fits well into the album
because Carti eventually went there with a Whole Lot of Red.
Right. He made his own version of there were songs in there that were definitely knowing statements in a rock, even in a rockist context.
Yeah. And Christian Point cover art, the Slayer reference, the Black Flag reference. He's obviously about the reference points he's making. So, but this is not new territory. And it's why do we have to keep relitigating this discussion? Why are these disparate points? Why are these segregated? There's a word.
Yeah.
Well, but it is a worthwhile, thing to mention. It's things that hip hop.
Why did Lil Yachty not get taken seriously until he put fucking 6-minute prog solos in his album?
Yeah, jeez. It's
and why is it?
Arguably a less creative album than Lil Boat 1, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean it's something that sounded that sounded fresh. Yeah.
Del Rey episode. We talked about Lil Yachty. Check out our Lana Del Rey episode.
Plugg.
Follow the dots.
Speaking of Plugg.
Speaking of Lana Del Rey, let's talk more about Playboi Carti.
It is nice to hear, kind of going back to what I talked about, how it was nice to hear 2017 style production. It was nice to hear, what do you call it? Had To, where it's a Mexico drill beat, very much of its time. That was nice to...
That's one of my issues with the album, one of my few issues. Okay, 2 issues. I called it an album. It feels like a mixtape in that I was thinking about it in terms of his albums, and this is the one that feels like it, for some transitions between tracks, feels less fluid than Die Lit or Whole Lot of Red. There's certain things that flow together better, but overall this does feel kind of this is the one that feels like a content dump. And second, after Flex and Kelly K, I kind of feel like Had To as the ending feels a bit abrupt.
I'm not convinced that I don't really think Carti has that many really great closers. They kind of just are the last song. Whole Lot of Red does have a end on a really nice note. I like how this album ends too, but it definitely does feel just one more song and then boom, kind of thing.
It's a good song. It's a very good song. It was more to my point about how I feel certain songs are thought about transitions, whereas I think on Die Lit and A Lot of Red, I feel there was much more of a thought of a cohesive piece, whereas this definitely feels like a mixtape in terms of there are transitions between certain songs, but not about how it flows together as a piece.
Mm-hmm. It flows really well to me, but that might just be because I've heard it maybe the most. I think it might have just been something
it flows together. I mean, I wouldn't say it flows together poorly, especially just comparatively to the other two.
Yeah.
I feel you like this better than Die Lit.
I do, and I really can't decide between this and Whole Lot of Red at this point. It's tough comparison.
They're doing very. I mean, I prefer Whole Lot of Red, but I feel they're in depth. they're definitely doing different things,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is obvious. I mean, I feel like he's also in so much more of an artistically evolved space, and that's a pompous ass statement. But I feel like Whole Lot of Red just has Whole Lot of Red. The thing about it is the songs get to the point quicker, which I think speaks to where he changed the musical landscape in terms of that's where I kept going with the whole. It's become kind of a meme. I don't know. And it can be a meme if you're the only one saying it. But I say the thing all the time about like Robert Pollard, Playboi Carti thing in the podcast about like they're two people who just get to the point. Like they just like make a structure where the hook is the point. And I think he got there with Whole Lot of Red Leaks and Whole Lot of Red, where the songs are structured that way. Whereas on this album, like you have songs that are a bit repetitive, where they're the same type of thing, but they still go to an old media type of song structure, if that makes sense. Like you have things that are 3 minutes that in Whole Lot of Red era would have been a minute and a half.
Yeah, true. Like that's a good point. Probably if I listen back to some of these, I probably could have been like, yeah, this would have been shorter nowadays.
And it's not necessarily a detriment because he has such a hypnotic flow and the way it's structured, it still works. But
Yeah.
I feel like Iter are more accomplished at that sort of thing. So he didn't know that he could do that. That essentially it's like, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah. I think Whole Lot of Red versus this to me is like, do you want the one where he's like pushing himself as far out of his comfort zone as he can, or the one where he's like really deep in a new comfort zone for him? And I think the latter wins out for me just because like he does it better than anyone else can.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I mean, I like vastly prefer, I mean, I want to say vastly is a hard one because I listened to this again and I bumped it to a 9, which puts all three at a 9. So clearly they're all in. Yeah. They're
did you
pretty much all in
10 ones?
Yeah, I mean, so would you say that this is your favorite overall, Chops, or?
Yeah.
I think it edges out because like Whole Lot of Red, if the most pioneering one is the best, then it's Whole Lot of Red. If the one that means the most to people is the best, it's Die Lit. If the best is my favorite with the most memories I have with it, it's this for sure. So I think it's this, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that for you, obviously the third would probably be the answer. But I mean, I think objectively, to use the term that we've been throwing around there, the second would probably buy, and then Die Lit, which is clearly that holds some weight because that's the impetus for this whole series. So,
yeah, I can't speak on it.
But then again, you do have Whole Lot of Red is the end point of it all.
I really do not know what's next.
Which is refreshing, though. That's the thing. Like, and I do love following an artist where you really don't know where they're going to go. Yeah. Although, again, where they're going to go is they wear a fucking ski mask and go on InfoWars with a fucking short little Nazi fuck. And then it's like, I wish I didn't know where you're going to go sometimes. So then it's like, maybe that shouldn't be your favorite artist. So.
Yeah, but it's all about, like, you know.
But we kind of, you know, there's been no indication that's like that. That's a whole other kettle. So.
Too much of that discussion on this episode. You know?
I agree.
Chops, what's your favorite?
Relaxed that rule a little much on this episode. I apologize. So
no, you're good. Chops, you got a favorite? You got a favorite song on here? Favorite run? What on here speaks to you the most?
Ooh, that's a damn good question. That's a tough one. I'm gonna honestly just give it to Kelly K just because I fucking adore that beat. I think it sounds absolutely like joyous and lovely. the little like money counter sound, the little like siren. That thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. And then if we're talking like best moments, Uzi on Lookin' is way up there. Just the like.
Yeah, his flow on that.
Dipping into the like faster flow, and then like being able to go back to like kind of how Carti does it himself.
When it transitions back to the hook and he's like, "Oh, I forgot." Like,
yeah,
I love that part. He just sounds so cool on that shit.
Yeah, for real. That and anything else? Yeah, fuck it. Rocky on New Chopper as well. Like, because there's only like 2 verses on here that are like that, they feel like
They're very distinct, yeah.
super special in a certain way. Just like it comes in, it's like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
So,
The H to the double hockey stick, yeah.
I didn't even fucking remember that. I love that he censored stuff like that. One of the things that I forgot about Rocky on this is that he says, I didn't want to rush it. And then as it ended, I was like, you had the shortest verse on the album.
yeah.
What are you, like, you actually rushed it?
And he rushed testing too. Well, it sounds that way anyway.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Although I think with testing, he was kind of trying to catch up to this, like, sound in a bit.
Yeah. I feel like I could go back to testing and suddenly be like, like part of me thinks I should probably go back to it because it might be amazing, and I may have just not been ready for it. I don't know.
Testing has stuff that's cool on it.
There's stuff on there that I love, but there's also stuff on there that's like, meh.
And there's a really good, that Frank Ocean guy has a really good part on testing. I'll say that much.
He does.
So true.
Yeah.
He was, and Rocky was sure to put like the Lauryn Hill sample over Frank, so they overlap really annoyingly. So it was really sweet of him to do that.
Yeah, I think testing was something that he probably could have sat on for a while, but he was anxious about being overshadowed, which is interesting considering how silent he was after it. Then he didn't.
True.
But clearly,
right.
I mean, shout out to the immortal Justin Bieber tweet about, I'm glad Donald Trump got ASAP Rocky out of Canada, but I wish he would, I forget what the other half of that was. But it was just like the most darkest timeline thing where it's like Justin Bieber is talking sense to Donald Trump. Wait, what the fuck are we all talking?
The pure contrast between Justin Bieber being like, oh, Donald Trump, thank you, but I wish you would have did this thing, and then Freddie Gibbs is like, fuck that shit, let them kids out of the border bit. Beautiful moment in time.
It is 2017. You don't realize like that was a long time ago. Like, it really makes you think about how chaotic we were in the like early days of being terminally online. Now we've gone.
Kids are probably still in fucking cages.
Jesus Christ.
Quite possibly.
Oh my god!
Don't
look
too hard. Don't pull too hard on that thread. They're probably
don't go that far. Yeah. We didn't talk about, and to get away from this as fast as possible before we wrap this up. What we didn't talk about is I am a do that shit appreciator. I love that song.
Okay, do that shit. I gained a lot of appreciation for it because I actually feel like that's a nice Pierre bookend to Magnolia. Like he flows the same way he does on Magnolia.
Yeah.
So I think that do that shit was like that became top 5 for me that I was not prior when I gave this listen.
I think it's in my top 5 too. That's a beautiful, beautiful song. I love that beat.
100%.
Another beat that kind of like, similar to Magnolia has this like, warmth, the warmth to it. So
it definitely has, I would say, that just general Pierre sound.
Mm-hmm. Which is a sound that, while not necessarily, from an artist perspective, would be replicated. Pierre being a massive producer and this being the big breakout of Pierre. I mean, that tag on Magnolia, people love that tag and it stuck. And that's, it was a distinct sound, and especially like, outside of the Metro Boomin tag, like that tag is iconic. It really is. It is the most iconic.
Are you saying it's the
reason the tag stuck though? Is it kind of like Magnolia just kind of sounds like he's running into a live show, and like his producer, they're kind of trying to get everything together, and he's running up like in New York, I'm Millie Rock.
Yeah,
a live crowd out there, and they're trying to get Pierre out there. Like that's why that works, and it's so fucking perfect in context. It's stuck with him for the rest of his life. Like you can't hear a Pierre song and not hear, "Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?"
If he went to another producer tag, people would like just
stop listening to the music. Yeah. No, seriously, because even Pierre, he's so, that is like, that tag was the first step in like his quote unquote like branding, in the sense of like, that is what got him off the ground, and now he is, a massively relevant producer.
Oh yeah, you'll always remember. Like the right tag can do that. I remember there's an era where people would like really like seek out like future tapes without the DJ drops or whatever. But honestly, having the right producer tag can really make you fucking stick in people's heads.
Of course, I mean that's literally what got. I mean, outside of talent and connections, obviously, but like Metro had the same emergence when it was with Thug and Future, like
Yeah.
and the Migos. Like it was the same. It was the Mike Will back going further back had that. I mean,
hate that
yeah.
Mike tag. I used to hate that shit on Gucci tapes, but eventually when I was listening to Gucci tapes, that's how I knew I was going to get like a fire beat circa I'm Up. Like, oh, Mike Will made it. Okay,
Right.
this is going to be nuts at this point.
Or like Zaytoven or
Right, like it became like it's just like the sign of the times. Like it's don't be an old fucking pudding brain. Like things change. Like the language changed. Like it's like sampling.
And you weave it into It's like you were about to say it's like sampling. You weave it into the beginning of the songs. There are songs that I can't hear without the tag because they're put in a distinct place and it just fits.
Yeah. Honestly, we should have always had producer tags. Like, imagine if station to station. Imagine how much better that would be if it was like.
What would Brian Eno's tag be? What's the Eno tag?
That's a good question.
It's like
Eno made this one. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be that.
Fake producer tags is a funny bit we should bring back.
Funny on the episode. We can't actually do the voices for, so we can't actually pull it off.
His producer tag would be the Windows 95 logo, I realize.
Yeah, it would just be like the Windows 95 thing. It would be like Eno the activist or something.
I need DJ Esco tags, but for like Autechre albums.
Yeah. And like a Scottish accent.
I apologize to all my coworkers who have long since stopped listening to this and don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Patrick's coworkers, go listen to Gant's Graph. It's good, I promise. You'll like it.
Why are you recommending them Gant's Graph?
Because it's good.
Go listen to Garbage EP. Yeah, that'll.
No, the truth is in the name. You can't listen to the Garbage EP. It's bad.
Well, I mean, that was a protest EP because of the fucking rave laws, which was awesome, but still.
Oh, that's anti, but yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, Patrick's coworkers, go listen to Flutter. It's a beautiful song, and it's got a little message in it, so.
Go listen to Crystal Knocks by John Zorn.
Patrick's coworkers, go follow me on OAM. I promise I have, like, occasionally not cringe moments.
You do. You have.
Don't follow anyone on RYM. What the fuck are you doing? Don't follow anyone.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. I was giving our esteemed guest a compliment. Don't actually follow anyone.
Yeah, no. If you do, I'll block you. I promise.
Shout out to our guest Jermaine Sin.
Oh God. On that note, Chops, anything else you want to say about the self-titled or?
I was about to try and pronounce your artist name, and I completely butchered it because I was trying to give you a plug. But
no, plug yourself. Plug away.
Yeah, plug yourself because you pronounce your artist name correctly.
Okay. I really like this Playboi Carti album cover a lot, actually, and I make music as Unknown Damage, and it's like kind of banging, maybe.
Strong.
You think Carti would sound good over your songs?
There's only one way to find out.
There's only one. We might as well put it out there.
He must have been doxxed by now at some point. I can get that Carti number, I'm sure.
Oh,
you would be don't challenge.
If you go on like the subreddit, I'm sure you'll find something.
All right, Chops, you're really like fucking baiting the bear here. First, you challenge my coworker to go on RYM, and now you're doxed.
No. Don't dox Playboi Carti. I'm just saying if this happened, I'm gonna make some things happen. That's all. It's fine.
Yeah, you got your out there.
He's shooting a shot. He's shooting a shot. I understand. But anything on this record or Carti going forward that you want to say? Speak now.
Ooh, good question. I guess I'll
What do you
say-
think? What do you think the next album's gonna sound like? I'll say that.
It should be hexed. If he knows what's right for him, it'll be a hexed.
You don't think this is an asinine statement by me. You don't think Hexed is like so 2020, 2021? Like you don't think we moved past that now?
In my heart, it's like cloud rap, where it's like it kind of goes away a little bit, and then it's gonna come back and be.
It'll have a resurgence. I could see it.
I hope, because it had potential that it didn't reach. Like I think, but you know,
I agree. I agree. All right, no, that's fair. That's fair. He's, look, if going off of the fake page for it, it's going to be called like music or whatever, which I still can't be convinced that's a real thing. So
no way.
That's
but
still
I guess
up. That's still up, huh?
Yeah.
I bet it's got a good comment box.
No, I'm not reading it. I'm not reading all of that.
No.
Much like us, that comment box is living off borrowed time.
Yeah, true.
Indeed.
What a good circle back that was.
Is the Borrowed Time instrumental by Billy Woods, made by Yoon Classic, and our outro music, as always, is Stagnated Pace by Can Kick. Chops, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we will join you next time for more Playboi Carti discussion, 1 out of 36 episodes. Peace.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
Time will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.